I specifically, screened and checked this to make sure that there would be disagreement and there would be people that I assume agree with you on not completely altering like systems of government. So I promise this isn't going to be like a you're not the small white girl with in like the porn photo but like surrounded by like the five big black guys. Okay, like I promise you're gonna be okay. We're not gonna do that to you unless you want that to happen to you. Yep. I I can't hear anything. There we go. Wait. All right. Can someone give me like a mic check? My headphones are being a bit wonky.
Hello, hello, testing.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you, Pisco. Awesome. Hell yeah. All right. And then dun, 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 dun. So link.
Enos mic check. Enos.
We can hear you, Connor. We just can't see you.
It's gonna keep what? You can't see me. Get the fuck out of here.
No, it's like I see you. I see Spectre. Oh wait, where'd he go? Nice go. Yo, where'd he go?
I'm rejoining because you said you couldn't see me.
Oh, perfect. All right, here we go. All right, so we're gonna put the cons on the top, the progs in the middle, and the mod on the bottom. So everyone,
this is a metaphor for how we do sex.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Like, damn it. True. So, thank you all for being here. There's no reason not to start now. So, thank you all for joining me for this excellent government panel. We're talking, I know it sounds boring, CTV, but these are things that could absolutely define our lives and our political system, like for well into the future. This is an extremely important topic, especially because consideration about both the court and the filibuster are currently happening inside our government. So,
I love getting called out, by the way. I love it. Do it some more.
So with that in mind, we are going to do a brief intro for everybody. So let's start with CTV, and we can go from him to Connor to Samantha to Pisco to Spectre to Jolah, and then around to me. So take as long as you need. Plug anything you want to plug, all that good stuff.
Well, this is my first time being here in this particular room with Hans. I'm very curious to see what his moderation style is going to be like tonight. I'm curious to have the conversation with Jolah because I haven't spoken to Jolah with everybody else I've talked to before. So Jolah, know that I'm looking at you first, right? And the devilishly handsome face it is, right? That being said, I am critically thinking veteran, the conservative main boss for this and any other panel that you see me on. And I'm very happy to be here tonight to have a conversation with people, hopefully that leads to a better understanding of the three topics that we have in mind. That said, you got your beverage of choice. Be able to enjoy the conversation. Come at it with an open mind. Ready to laugh, because that's ultimately what we should be trying to do is understand, laugh.
I'm happy that you're ready to laugh. All right, Connor.
Yeah, very happy to be here. My name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I identify as centrist or center right. I am a Marine veteran, a law enforcement veteran, and a nerd. So that's why I like yelling about politics on a Friday night. I'm known for being very calm, cool, and collected, and never yelling at anybody, including my good friend Pisco. That's like what we're most known for, is just like calm, civil, like middle of the road, like debates. We're not very contentious, very boring, and that's what I'm known for. So if you're into military politics, violence, or good science fiction, check out my channel. The easiest way to do that is follow me on Twitter on your screen right now, Connorpoints, CONORPOINTS, CONORPOINTS, and my YouTube is linked there. So yeah, thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, Samantha.
I'm Samantha Banana.
here on Discord. I don't really stream. I do run a podcast every Sunday with Connor down there and our good friend Tiberius D called the Mask Off Podcast, where we just kind of have like a post-partisan, fuck everybody. We don't give a fuck about anybody's shit. We just talk. It's just about whatever grinds our gears, whatever is going on in the world that's affecting us, or issues that we believe strongly in. And politically, I'm post-partisan, but if you wanted to put me in a fucking stupid box, you could say libertarian socialist with civic nationalist tendencies.
All right. Pisco.
How you doing? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. I'm Pisco. I'm a now graduated law student who is currently studying for the bar. So my shout out is for the uniform bar examination. Much props to that and all of our wonderful legal institutions. I probably be considered left wing or liberal or I don't know, social democrat. And I'm real excited to talk about these very pertinent and topical issues, which I think we'll find a lot of disagreement, hopefully some common ground.
Awesome. All right, Spectre.
Yeah, hey, I'm Spectre. I do a lot of behind the scenes work for streamers. I'm going to hopefully start streaming again here once I get equipment out from California that I left there because I recently moved. And yeah, I'm on Twitch and glad to be here.
Hell yeah. And then Jolah.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jolah. I align with progressives politically. I have an ideal vision of where the world should be, and I work pragmatically to get there. My main focus in school right now, I'm finishing my master's. I do a lot of political communications, and I'm dealing with progressive issues in rural America. That's what my channel is based around. Check me out at Jolah on YouTube, Jolah, as you see on the screen. I'm excited to talk to all you, especially critically thinking veteran.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And rounding it out, hey everyone, I'm Hans. If you're watching, this is my panel. I host a panel every Friday at 8 EST. Normally bring in 3 people from either a conservative versus like on the conservative side of things, and then 3 people on the left side of things, or at least like 3 people of each side that disagree on different topics, and try and have a semi-moderated discussion. I personally am a market socialist, but I do not participate in these panels. I am here solely for the purpose of moderation. If you don't like my moderation, please, I will read the rules in a moment. Feel free to call me out if you feel like I'm enforcing them unfairly or fairly. I'm always trying to improve my format to make sure that all of my guests, regardless of their political affiliations, feel comfortable and willing to come back to have these conversations, because these are extremely important to be able to talk to each other to get through these issues. So without further ado, we are going to dive into our first topic of the evening. But I will start with the format. I showed it to everyone on this panel already, but I'm reading it now for the purposes of the audience. If any of you think I'm, say, modding unfairly, here are the rules that I am following to moderate this panel. First, every person gets a 90-second intro and outro uninterrupted for every single topic. We will vary who goes first and last for each topic. And then we are going to do a hand-raising system to make sure that we can control the conversation so everyone isn't screaming at each other. If you want to talk, raise your hand starting when the last person is giving their opening statement, and I'll put you on a list. Once we have you on the list, we will go down the list to go through the different points. Gish galloping is bad. If you talk for more than 2 minutes, you will be eventually cut off. At 1 minute 30 seconds during your statement, I will start giving you this motion to tell you that you have 30 seconds left. At 10 seconds, I will start doing it again, and I will not stop until 2 minutes. And at 2 minutes, I'll say finish your sentence. And after, if you don't finish it quickly, I will just cut you off or mute you. This is just to make sure that no one is like gish galloping, to keep the conversation from going in a positive direction, and make sure that no one is giving a 5-minute lecture that no one can possibly respond to in any useful frame of time. In terms of interruptions, please not interrupt people if at all possible. I understand it's going to get heated, so that's entirely fine. We will wait. If you have a quick response or a question for someone about a statement they made, please say just quick response after they finish talking. Voice your concern or your question for them to clarify. You can have a small back and forth to clarify whatever question you were asking, and then we will keep going back down the list. If it starts going derailing into crazy land, I will stop the conversation and start pulling it back onto the list as we go. If someone directly addresses you during a statement they are making, you are allowed to respond. That does not affect the list. And also for everyone, you are only allowed to be on the list once. So if you raise your hand, I will give you a thumbs up to let you know that you're on the list. Just put your hand down. Don't worry about raising your hand until you speak, because you're not getting on the list twice. Does everyone understand the rules of this?
Cheers.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So without further ado, let's begin. We'll start this topic with CTV giving the opening and closing statement. I only allow one person to give the opening and the closing because they're going to let everyone respond to them. So they should be able to respond to everyone at the end. So with that in mind, our first topic is, should Democrats abolish the filibuster in the Senate? CTV, you have 1:30 on the clock. No interruptions. Take it away, buddy.
First things first. If you need to borrow a whereby that has a non-green screen, bro, I'm more than willing to let you use mine. Said the filibuster doesn't need to be pushed to be gotten rid of, because the reason why it was put there is because of a fundamental misunderstanding of the way in which the Senate was meant to operate over 100 years ago, whenever the 17th Amendment was put into place, right? What we actually need is a repeal of the 17th Amendment to put the voting of the senators at the federal level back at the state legislature. That way, the individual becomes then further inclined to get involved in their state government, which is something that has been lacking over the years. So that's about what I have to say about it. And no, we need to keep it until we fix that.
All right. Thank you, CTV. Then now we're going to go to Pisco, and then to Connor, then to Spectre, then to Samantha, and then we're finishing with Jolah. So Pisco, 90 seconds on the clock. Go ahead.
The legislative filibuster should be taken out. One, it makes passing laws too hard. Now, laws should be difficult to pass. Our framers recognize that. We need to have bicameral presentment and signature from the president. These are federal laws, and it should be difficult. We want our system to have checks and balances. But recent years show that passing laws are way too hard. A sub point on that is it's an arbitrary level of difficulty. People say laws should be difficult to pass, but why not have it 70 votes or 80 votes? There doesn't seem to be a good reason to put it at 60 votes other than to give overrepresentation to small states, which are already overrepresented in the legislature by virtue of the Senate. And so I think the legislative filibuster gives a veto to small states, which already have an outsized amount of control in our government. I think the constitutional framers recognize this, and that's why Hamilton in particular was scared of small states having a total veto on the say of the entire country.
All right. Thank you, Pisco. All right, Connor, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So Pisco and I are going to agree on this one. Basically, I think that the filibuster was only implemented as a way to stop legislation from getting passed since the 1990s. I don't think of any time before that as any more of a crisis than than now. I feel like we absorbed plenty of legislative, constitutional, and executive crises before the 1990s, and I have no idea. Democracy is already slow as shit in passing laws, responding. Like, legislation is always about 30 years behind what the feeling is on the ground. So if we're already 30 years behind on what the feeling is on the ground, then I think I can think of a dozen examples of legislation that should be passed. Federal marijuana decriminalization is obviously one of them. Police reform, immigration reform, all that kind of stuff. And when we put it at a 60 vote threshold, that basically means that nobody can get a fucking thing done. And that's really annoying to me. So yeah, yield right there.
All right. Thank you, Connor. All right, Spectre, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say that everything that, basically Connor and Pisco said here, and even CTV is correct. Like, the legislative filibuster is honestly abused by Republicans and Democrats.
I was getting some feedback on my end. Could everyone hear Spectre?
Got the
Hey, weak.
feedback.
Spectre, check
Yeah, I
which
was trying
mic
to
you're
see.
on.
No, I don't think that was my mic. Am I coming through now?
Oh, yeah, you are.
Yeah, because it's my headset too, so I don't know what that was. But yeah, no, legislative filibuster, it's really only abused by Republicans. So if Democrats or liberals aren't going to start actually using it when Republicans have the majority, then yeah, they should just go ahead and abolish it. Because they seem to be more concerned with maintaining the integrity of institutions than actually getting results, whereas Republicans have shown themselves to be more result oriented. So if they're not going to actually use the tool, then they need to take it off the table.
All right, Samantha.
I believe that the filibuster should stay because I believe that laws should be insanely hard to pass. Like, we really need to take back and look about and debate, or if they want to cry on the floor for 48 hours until they fucking pass out or eat a toxic egg, that's up to them. But I think it's there. And with the whole, the left hasn't really used it. I remember Bernie Sanders did a filibuster that literally got turned into that entire speech from his filibuster got turned into a fucking book. But yes, more of the left should utilize it. It's a tool that should be used to make laws harder to pass. I don't want shit just passing willy-nilly. And so that's what it's for. And I believe it should actually be changed, not the current filibuster, but go back to the whole you have to do the dancing monkey thing, make our senators earn their fucking pay.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. All right. So Joel is the last person, so don't interrupt him during his opening statement. But now at this point, everyone is welcome to start raising their hands to begin the conversation after the opening statements. So, all right, Pisco, I see you first, and then everyone just raise your hand. I'll give you the thumbs up, and then we can get started. So, Jola, minute 30 on the clock, buddy. You're up.
So for a democratic function, the filibuster makes sense for what the Senate is supposed to do. Like, okay, encourage debate. The House is majoritarian. If you get a majority in there, things go right through. Then in the Senate, you need to have strict debates. But of course, Republicans have abused this to become purely obstructionist. And the transaction cost to actually get stuff done is getting way, way, way too high. I agree that if we are going to keep the filibuster, it needs to be made like you need to make the argument. I think we should use modern communications. Make McConnell go out there and do a dance for 24 hours to get it done. Don't use any two-lane approaches to get any bypasses to that system. Make the argument. Actually have reasons to not support legislation. Right now, the only reason I'd even be for getting rid of the filibuster, and that's why I am for getting rid of it, is because I think the Republican Party is so dangerous at the state-by-state level with their methods of like voter suppression. And something like the For the People Act is something that is so important to me when it comes to the survival of our democracy at this point in American history. So I'd be for right now, just a little bit of an exception, like get rid of it for now, just as a treat, and try to pass some formats to make sure our democracy doesn't die.
All right. With that, we'll go into the general conversation. Again, we have two other topics, so depending on how long this lasts, we have other things we can go to. There's no set time limit for this. We'll be checking in depending on like how well this like initial conversation goes. So right now, the only person on the clock is Pisco. So Pisco, 2 minutes. Take it away, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know what CTV was talking about with respect to the 17th Amendment and the desire to have allocations via state legislature to the Senate. I don't know why we'd want to go back to that. I think people are plugged into national politics and they want their senators to be democratically elected. There are a lot of problems with respect to state elections that I think, first of all, it takes away a lot of control for the federal government to regulate Senate elections. Actually, they might not be, given the Constitution. But I don't know what the 17th Amendment argument. I want to hear that fleshed out more. From Samantha, I don't know why you want passing laws to be this hard. I understand it should be hard, but why this hard? We already have to go through the House of Representatives. We already have to go through the Senate. We already have to have it approved by the president. And then if it's a controversial law, it has to go through the courts. And so I don't know why on top of it, you would add a 60 vote threshold. Why not a 70 vote threshold? Why not have it be unanimous? I think you'll find, as our founders did, that the more you increase the threshold of what can become a national law in this country, the harder it is to get stuff done. That's precisely why we moved from the Articles of Confederation, where it needed to be a unanimous vote between the states to get things done, to a system that was easier to pass legislation with a majority.
All right. So both CTV and Samantha were added. So CTV, if you'd like to respond, and then Samantha is welcome to respond. Also, Samantha, I see you, so I'm putting you on the list as well, so your response won't be like taking your time on the list. And then Connor, did you raise your hand, or were you just like airing out something for?
Shit, I'll take some. I'm sure I'll have something to say.
All right. All right. So CTV, feel free to respond. 2 minutes for you.
Socialism at work, folks. Right? I may not have anything to say right now, but like I might. So
but I want that handout.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And we're starting with the interrupting already. You see how this works? Right? You give them an inch, they got to take them out. Motherfucking socialists.
Let him
right
finish.
Now.
Let CTV finish. Like, go ahead, buddy.
It's all right. It's a little mean. Hans, relax. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Jeez. All right. Here we go. Now, I don't know why Pisco doesn't know what I'm talking about. Right? I mean, Pisco himself told us that he just recently graduated law school, so he understands the inherent need of the individual, right, to have the direct representation that is the House of Representatives, and then for the state itself and the state legislature to have some type of representation in the federal Congress. Right now, they don't have any. You say, oh, well, the people elect the senators and then they represent. It's like, no, they represent the individuals. State itself is not represented in the system. Now, to your point, though, that you're trying to get to, is that back when they thought that this was a good idea, the entire argument was painted that it was just a corrupt way to get, these politicians, because there's an in group of people getting elected, and that's who the ones, the most corruption, that's the ones that go to represent the federal Senate, right? The problem with believing that that was entirely the idea is that it assumes that every bit of knowledge was known about the federal Senate then, and that everything was as corrupt as you're saying, or potentially saying, right, in history, because I know you didn't say that specifically. But we need the states to have the representation just like the individual. Hence why we have the House of Representatives and the Senate. That goes back to the founding with regard to the Virginia Plan and the Connecticut Compromise and why these houses of Congress were formed.
All right. Pisco, would you like a brief response to that before we throw it to Samantha?
Sure. I think that government should represent people, and the states already have sovereignty over their respective land. I mean, states have the inherent police power. They have their own state constitutions and own state laws, which already regulate a great deal of activity in America. Why do they need additional outsized influence? And especially now, small states, because small states are overrepresented in terms of the amount of people they have. I think that that's problematic, and that our national government should be looking at. Obviously, should look at the balance of power between in federalism, but I'm more concerned about people than states, and I think states can fend for themselves with their own laws.
All right. Thank you, Pisco. We're going to throw it to Samantha, and then we have Connor, and then Pisco again. So, Samantha, take it away.
All right, so Pisco, you asked me why I wanted it very hard to pass laws, and I have like a one. Now I'll make it 3 words in my whole answer. My fucking guns. Okay. Like, fuck that. I don't want the federal government to be like, okay, like with Nancy Pelosi's bill of her bullshit list of like, these guns are scary, these guns are bad, these guns are this. Like, I don't want this shit banned. I want this shit insanely hard, insanely fucking hard to pass. Like, but at the same time, I also want like, hey, a federal level bathroom bill. I would love that shit to be extremely hard to pass. A federal level like anti-trans bill, like extremely hard. I want a lot of things I want extremely hard to fucking pass. And I think that's a good thing. If you're going to make major sweeping laws that affect the entire country, it should be really hard to pass because you're affecting every motherfucker in this country. Now, if the states want to go and do their own little shit here and there like they're doing now, that's whatever. But I don't believe the federal government should have like a fast lane to fucking laws without some pushback being able to have it on the spot. As long as they get a debate, as long as they make good arguments on the floor, cool. I want that shit to be heard. Because maybe there's other senators not thinking about what other ones are thinking and kind of can get a different perspective. And I think that's a positive thing.
All right. Pisco, would you like a brief response to that? Or we're just going to go to Connor and then to you. What would you like to do?
Yeah, just a question. By that logic, why aren't you okay with a 90 vote threshold to pass a law? Or are you okay with that?
Samantha, you don't have to answer that right now if you want to think upon that, like just like for a couple minutes before we go around the room. Don't worry, you need like a big snap response immediately. So we're gonna go to Connor. Samantha, keep that in the back of your head, and then answer, and just raise your hand once you feel comfortable answering that. So Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, so I am completely sympathetic to Samantha's concern. I think national level gun action is probably one of the main things that throws me onto the right, quote unquote. So I'm completely sympathetic to that. The only problem is that I seriously think that Democrats and Republicans, people who are in power, they use social wedge issues like guns and abortion to make sure that we never do anything ever. And that's really fucking frustrating for me on an individual level. There's a lot of shit that they say that we need to fix. They get elected into office. They use the other side as an excuse not to do anything, and then they don't fucking do anything. That's a pain in my balls. I'm talking to state reps right now. I'm already finding it difficult to do very simple things politically. Unfortunately, that's kind of like the nature of democracy is, basically things are a pain in the ass. But 60, to kind of hint at Pisco's question, the reason why I wouldn't want a 90 vote threshold is because it would make everything literally like basically impossible to pass a fucking thing. Whereas 60, it's at least possible to pass, I don't know, like a fucking budget or some shit like that. But this political organization obviously, it obviously deeply favors conservatives because conservatives don't have to fucking change anything. They can just pass the same laws that they had last year, the same laws that the same budgetary thing with minor modifications that you don't have to change very much, and you can just keep the fucking the can kicked down the road. But we're looking at some serious problems. We're looking at environmental concerns. We're looking at immigration reform. We're looking at gun reform. So there's a lot of serious shit that we need to get to.
Thank you, Connor. So we're going to throw it specifically to Pisco. And so right now the list is Pisco, Jolah, and Spectre. So 3 lefties. So conservatives. I assume he's going to be like pointed at you 3. So and then Samantha. So Samantha, are you ready for the answering Pisco's question before we throw it to Pisco?
So yeah, I'll just go ahead and do that. So like, are you talking about the difference between needing like the simple majority before instead of the supermajority vote that's required right now?
No, why would you not prefer, instead of a 60 vote supermajority, a 90
Yes.
vote supermajority? Can you rationalize why you'd be okay for one but not
where,
the other?
where it's almost a unanimous?
Where it's almost unanimous, yeah.
Yeah. Either way, like I wouldn't care as long as it's super hard to like push through federal things just quickly, and there's allow for pushback and allow for like opposing statements saying, hey, this is why I believe this is wrong, or like in some cases where they just read fucking green eggs and ham on the Senate floor. It's been done. But like I believe that we need that opportunity for pushback. So be it 60, be it 90, I don't give a fuck. I just need there to be able to be pushed back. I'm not going to say like unanimous. That's like nothing will ever motherfucking get done if it's a unanimous thing. But I believe that majority offers not just pushback, but it forces compromise. So with like my problems with the left and the right, where it's like they just care about dunking on each other, this kind of like forces compromise. Okay, we'll give you this if we give you this. Like I've been saying, like maybe they could be like, hey, we'll give you fucking nationalized healthcare if you just fucking leave the Second Amendment alone, you fucks. But I mean, you could force compromise with a filibuster. And I think that's a very positive aspect. So I don't care if it's 60, I don't care if it's 90. Just force compromise, make it harder.
All right, thank you, Samantha. So now we're gonna go to Pisco, and then Joel, the Spectre, and then back to Samantha. So if you want to jump on this, make sure you raise your hand, or just wait till you get added. So Pisco, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I think we should be not looking at whether or not we should have the filibuster by virtue of an issue lens. We should look at it from ex ante before we know about the array of different issues that exist today. When we're thinking about the ideal structure of our government, it should be thinking about it in kind of abstract terms. Where does it make sense as an institutional competency matter to put power? And I think that I believe in democracy, and I believe in majority rule with some limitations. And those limitations, I think, get to the heart of Samantha's concerns. She spoke about guns, for instance, in the Second Amendment. Well, you have an affirmative right for the Second Amendment, right? That's an individual's right to own and operate a gun. And there's not, so you can litigate that stuff in the courts. There's pushback there. There's pushback with respect to the Senate and the House already, and the president has to be on board. You have to have legislatures from both houses and the president on board to sign it into action. And I think that's enough pushback. Why do you want more? You said you'd be okay with the unanimous system. I think that would be extremely problematic, because I think what you're doing is you're pricing in the cost of the unknown extremely high, and you're not realizing that there's an opportunity cost that you're missing out on for all the legislation that you're not passing and all the lives you're not improving. So I think that we should recalibrate our senses and understand that the Constitution, I think, already has the proper amount of pushback and meat making.
All right, thank you, Pisco. Samantha, would you like to respond to that before we throw it to Jolah?
You fucking lawyer! I never said unanimous. near unanimous. But like, I'm fine with 60. Fuck it.
All right. We're to go to Jolah.
The big stat is really that the 50 Democratic senators represent 40 million more people than the 50 Republican senators do. And with CTV's program of going back to state houses choosing senators, that number would change even more drastically. Out of our 50 states, 30 of those states are, the state houses are controlled by Republicans. So that would lead us down a very, very weird path. And it is the tyranny of the minority that we're facing right here. And minority in only like one sense, because when it comes to what interests are being protected, it's really the cultural interests of white Americans. And it's not even like the well-being, because one of the arguments is that rural Americans in the middle of Pennsylvania or in the middle of our country, middle America, are going to be benefiting from Republicans having more of a say in stopping legislation. But right now, I don't think many people can name a policy Republican support that can actually help a decimated area in the Rust Belt that already isn't going to get private investment or something. They aren't for any infrastructure programs. They aren't for any actual help for these areas. So there's not even an argument that the intention of the Senate to help smaller states is even functioning right now.
All right. Thank you, Jolah. We're going to throw it to Spectre. Oh, and then Samantha, you're on the list after Spectre.
Right. So a couple people were saying that they were concerned about gun control and they want to keep the filibuster around for that. So there's tons of gun control bills that have been like passed in the last 8 years. When's the filibuster been used by Republicans to stop them? Like, has that actually happened? Have they used it that way?
Well, I mean, you just said tons of gun control bills have been passed. What gun control bills have been passed?
I think that there was like red flag laws that were like passed. I mean, like I can go down the list if we want to find it that got passed under Trump and then like more under Obama.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like if you're talking about like banning bump stocks or like, I think that was by executive order.
That was executive order.
Yeah, I want to say ERPOs were mostly done at the state level, and I think as much as it's unpopular for Republicans to say that they're okay with emergency risk protection orders, I think that sorry to break it to my right wing audience, but there's a fucking need for it. So like I don't know. I'd have to see some evidence.
So it sounds to me like basically gun control isn't even like being passed through Congress. It's usually coming like from like executive. Okay, so then like why is this even a concern? Like why are we bringing this up in a discussion about the filibuster?
Because
you know, like,
right when they announced,
One
when they
second.
announced their like intention to get rid of the filibuster is when they also announced their gun ban proposal, like at the same time. So it's like, oh, okay.
All right, Samantha, you're next on the list. Would you like to? You have like any more statements you'd like to make before we throw it to Pisco? And then Connor, I see you, so you're on the list after Pisco. So Samantha, if you want to like do a longer statement, go ahead.
Well, yeah, the bump stocks and all that shit, that was executive order. A lot of stuff where it's done by the states. Red flag laws are good in a lot of cases, and something that is needed from time to time. So are Alpos. But in response to Jolah, the federal government or the Senate not taking care of the states job is to take care of the states. It's not the federal government's to be like, oh, well, there's bad infrastructure in fucking bum shit ass Oklahoma. We should fix that. The people in bum shit ass fucking Oklahoma should fix that.
All right, we're gonna throw it to Pisco, and then to Connor, and then into Spectre. So Pisco, go ahead, buddy.
One is Samantha. I'm glad that you brought up that state action was what's threatening a lot of, or quote unquote, if you think it's threatening your gun rights, it's true. The states are the ones who are leading the charge in terms of a lot of gun control measures, and so if you have any problem with those measures, you should have them on the merits, and you should have them with your representatives, and you should encourage debate in Congress on the merits, and you should argue. That's the point of democracy.
You're right.
If you knew, for instance, that having a unanimous or near unanimous voting structure would protect your gun rights, but for that voting system, I still don't think it would make sense to have it, because then all you're doing is essentially saying that the minority should rule on this issue. And that seems very dangerous. It seems weird that we should be okay with the minority in general being in charge of things. Now, on certain issues like gun control, obviously there should be some rights that Congress shall not go over, and that's what we have the Bill of Rights for, and that's what we have court cases for. And I don't think anyone properly addressed Jolah's point about oversized representation among the small states. And it's really not just rural voters, it's small state rural voter, and not even them, it's just small states. Why should it be the case that these small state individuals who already have tons of oversized representation have now an additional minorities veto in the upper house? That to me makes no sense. It's not democracy, it's minority rule, and no one has addressed it so far.
All right. Would someone on the conservative end like to address that before we go to Connor?
It's equity. Sorry. Yeah. Is it equity? Whatever. Fuck. It's equality. It's leveling the playing field, right? That's what we want to do. We want to help the little guy get up to the level playing field as all the other big states. It's fairness. It's fucking fair. We're giving the small states 2 boxes to stand on so he can see over the fence, but I get none because I live in California. But also California takes away fucking large capacity magazines and all that shit, which is why you should write to your senators and give a shit ton of money to the NRA so they can fight these battles for you, because I'm fucking lazy. I'm not doing it.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. We're going to throw it to Connor.
Yeah, I mean, that was, God, fuck. Like, it's so frustrating because I agree with Pisco because I think this is too much of the minority power, right? But it's all about balance of power, and that's like the concern for us. So what Samantha is concerned with, and what I'm concerned with, is when we have representatives like Hillary Clinton saying that the entire set, like, right to keep and bear arms is riding on DC versus Heller. When we have, basically, goddamn, like state, county, and federal level legislators who don't even fucking understand the history of their own country. The thing that I would push back on is basically it's more conceptual than it is pragmatic. I think pragmatically we agree. Philosophically, just because a lot of people want something doesn't mean that thing isn't fucking stupid as shit. That's why we have balance of power politics. That's why we have elected representatives. That's why we have checks and balances. That's why we have the Electoral College. That's why we have all these stupid fucking rules. Is because the mob is it's a fucking mob. It's, I don't know, man. I do not trust the average fucking American to make a decision about anything.
Oh. Okay, so we're going to throw that to Spectre, and then Spectre's the last one on the list right now. So if anyone wants to get in, start raising your hand. All right, see you, Pisco. Spectre, go ahead.
Right. So as we established, the filibuster doesn't really affect gun control at all. So don't get why this matters. That's mostly happening at state levels, I think, is pretty much what we established.
No.
Okay. It affects healthcare and stuff like that more, which I honestly care more about as somebody with politics to the left of liberalism. If ever Bernie Sanders, Ilhan Omar, AOC wing of the Democratic Party was able to wield any type of power and try to get healthcare stuff through. They've already shown that they'll use the filibuster against something liberal as a Romney plan that was tried to pass under Obama. And that's also my concern with the Supreme Court that we're going to talk about next, due to what they did with the ACA and getting rid of the individual mandate.
All right. Pisco, you're up.
Yeah, I think Samantha's argument proves too much. I could similarly say that, I'm worried that Congress is going to pass a law that obviously infringes on our rights and makes a surveillance state, and gives police authority to go enter your home at any moment for, obviously treading upon the Fourth Amendment or something like that, right? And then on that basis, I think that it should be a unanimous vote. It's not enough to point to, I think, a fear of democratic rule as a way of limiting, as a matter of rulemaking, what gets passed and what doesn't. I think the point is ex ante, what should be the threshold? And without reference to a specific fear, who is the proper actor in which we give democratic legislative authority? And I think that actor, or those actors, it should be a majority. And obviously, I think there's still purpose for the Senate if they were to pass laws in the same way as the House of Representatives. It's a different body. It's elected every 6 years. There probably is more debate being done there. It's smaller. It's more prestigious. There are other reasons to have a bicameral legislature. And I think that just pointing out certain fears, if that were true, we'd go back to a near unanimous system. But we realized there were policy reasons against that in the first instance, which is we never got things done. And that was the problem with our system then, and it's the problem with our system now.
All right, thank you, Pisco. So reminding everyone, we have 9 minutes left on this topic. We're trying to keep each topic to around an hour. So right now we have Samantha. CTV, are you raising your hand, buddy? Like, I don't know, like you were like just holding like your like smoke thing, and I wasn't sure. Like, do you want to be on the list? I'm not trying to ignore you. I was just like, if you just like a little bit higher so I could see you. Is that what?
Higher? How much higher do I need to get? You not see I'm wearing the hat? How much higher do I need to get, brother?
All right.
I've got the shine jar. How much higher do I need to get? Right. So look, the first things first here, right, is that the education that's happening right now is lacking, right? Goes up there arguing about the smaller states. Like, the reason why a lot of these smaller states were made up in the Northeast specifically had to do with slavery, right? Because they would let in a slave state in the South. They wanted to, split up some of the smaller states to be able to give them more power, right? The reason why that's there, again, Virginia Plan, Connecticut Compromise. Feel free to go back in history books, find out what that was, right? But it was those two things that led to the House and the Senate being what they are. And in the original Constitution, the senators were elected by the state legislatures, and the state legislatures, right, the House member and the Senate member, were elected by the individual. That way, the state themselves had representation in the federal Senate. If you take that away, you end up with a system that will burn itself to the ground with mob rule, right? And that's specifically why the filibuster is there right now, is to try to prevent the whole fucking House from being set on fire, right? Because it was always intended for the House to be the hot teacup that rests on the saucer, and the Senate being the saucer, right? So there's a lot of these things to be getting pushed at the federal level that frankly don't need to be, and people need to be told to pack sand and take it back to their state and to advocate for shit in their state and become a lot more interested in what's going on in their state legislature, right? And because that's not happening, because of the 17th Amendment, you have a populace of people that now are completely unfucking aware as to what's going on in their state legislature, which is where they need to be advocating for these fucking ideas anyway.
All right, thank you, CTV. And I promise I wasn't picking on you. I legitimately could not see whether your hand was raised or not. That's my fault. I thought you were just doing the smoke thing. I promise I will know what you look like in the future when you're doing that. So right now we have Samantha, Pisco, Jolah, and then Connor. We have 6 minutes left before closing statements for this topic. So if you want in, get in. All right, Samantha, go ahead.
Okay, so there was a person, Norm Ornstein of the American Enterprise Institute for Public Policy Research, and he had a good statement. It was like, Democrats may want to instead consider reforming the procedure so that it continues to exist for truly extraordinary circumstances, but ceases to be the easily deployed blockade it is today. Which is where I think we can take a look back and like maybe take steps as like maybe exempt certain policy issues from filibuster. So like if it touches anything on the Constitution that's protected by the Constitution, allow like the filibuster to be brought into that so they can argue over the Constitution, maybe bring SCOTUS into it because like they're a bunch of old fucks too. Or take things along the line, make it more difficult to initiate filibuster. Or like what Pisco was saying, maybe decrease the number of votes necessary to end the filibuster, or like maybe shorten the timeline to invoke cloture and hold the final vote. Those are all good possibilities to do, or maybe like a combination of a couple, maybe three of them, instead of just getting rid of this outright. Because I believe that like the states and the people should have a way to push back and have other avenues and make people like think about something a little bit more before just pushing it through.
All right, thank you, Samantha. We're gonna throw it to Pisco, and then Jolah, and then Connor, and then we're just gonna go to closing statements. We don't have that much time left. So, Pisco, take it away.
PTV's fear mongering is a little bit despicable. I think the ultimate sovereign in this country is we, the people. The people. In order to pass the 17th Amendment, it went through the constitutional amendment procedures, and it had to be approved, so you know, by supermajorities of Congress and of the several states. The states themselves, in a supermajority, made this amendment, giving to the people the right to directly vote for their senators. And it's not been mob rule ever since the passage of the 17th Amendment, which, as Connor points articulated, the filibuster was seldom used in recent years, until in recent years. And it's developed over time to become this arbitrary threshold. I think that in this country, there ought to be a lot less minority rule. And small states shouldn't be able to impede the necessary work of Congress or of the president, for that matter. Think about all of the appointments that Obama had to implement in his term that were denied because of the judicial filibuster, among other things. It's enough work to have laws passed through both houses and signed from the president, that's enough. You don't need a reform act. Get rid of it.
All right, thank you, Pisco. CTV, you were directly added. Would you like to respond before we go to Jolah?
I think the fact that when somebody starts explaining frameworks of government and the reason why they were instituted to begin with is correlative to fear mongering only lets me know that Pisco fears the argument itself, because he just only wants to say centralize the government, which is exactly what those on the left want to do, right? They want to be able to centralize this government so that they can address Samantha's point, which is get those guns. That's the whole thing at the fucking end of the day, right? If it's not directly take the guns, it's hurt the manufacturing of it, right? And that was definitely on Biden's 2020 fucking agenda, and what's been happening since he got in office, right? Let's hurt the manufacturers of guns so that this right that we're supposed to have as a people is being shat on by the very government that Pisco thinks is supposed to help, provide things for the people. The reality of that fucking argument is that the government is not there to give things to the people. The government is there in order to set up a framework for free-thinking individuals to be able to use to work inside of what I like to call a polite society, right? Without living inside a polite society, things will devolve into chaos, right? And there's a lot of people on a lot of different spectrums that are trying their way to be able to figure out how to divide the people. And if there is one thing that should unite every individual across all fucking platforms, regardless of what's between their legs or what color their skin is, it is, in fact, the right to bear arms and your ability to be able to protect yourself. Because we all know that police officers somewhere between 15 minutes and half an hour away.
All right, thank you, CTV. Pisco, I think that was a fine response. We're going to, not going to give you like a retort to that. We're just going to go to Jolah and then to Connor, and then we're going to start with our closing statements. So, Jolah, take it away, buddy.
I would agree with some of the arguments if we were agreeing with like, if we had some type of very minor majority of people who are agreeing with something. But we're at the point right now where we're going to have like 70% of the American public wanting change in a lot of areas, like counterpoints brought up before, like marijuana legislation. In our country right now, America shouldn't be ranked 15th in the world for infrastructure. We shouldn't be ranked 27th in the world for healthcare. We shouldn't be losers on the world stage because our Republican lawmakers want to be obstructionists instead of actively participating in government. And when it comes to state governments and state budgets, they don't have the same functions that our centralized government does. A state can't just borrow money to do a big infrastructure program. We are losing so much money. We are losing so many lives in these states because we're not getting the proper investment in places like Montana and all these conservative states. And no Amazon is coming into these areas, bringing in private investment. And if they do, I don't want to give full ownership of our entire country, of our entire middle America, of our entire rural America to corporations who want to exploit people from there as well. So these are big issues that we have to be able to face when we're talking about this issue. And I don't think it's good to trade all of these policy issues and all of these material issues for an assault weapons ban. And isn't Biden's ban like a tax? Doesn't he want to? I think it's a dumb. I don't support his gun plan, but doesn't he just want to tax people who have that certain classification of weapons? It's not even a full ban. So.
All right, thank you, Jolah. We're going to throw it to Connor, and then we're going to start closing statements in the opposite order that we began them. So, Connor, take it away. 2 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
Yeah, this can be like my closing statement. So, basically, I think I might be stoned as well, but I just fucking agreed with like a 2-minute fucking rant from CTV, and I think it's because of the centralization of power. I think this is a major fucking problem, but it's more of like a rhetorical and a political one. So regardless of where we land on filibuster, no filibuster, I still think I hold my original position. But at the same time, a lot of people spend, I think Pisco pointed this out, a lot of people spend endless energy at the national level where they could be spending that locally. And oftentimes these problems are local. So for instance, like if we were talking about police reform at the national level, we can incentivize people with funding. But we're actually talking, the more I talk to local representatives or whatever, it's like, in order to get local cops to change local behavior, we have to go through local programs. We have to pressure them locally. If we're talking about marijuana, so far the states have led the way on marijuana decriminalization, and the feds have been like this very slow, cumbersome, non-responsive entity that has just kind of dragged their fucking dick through the mud when there's shit to do. It's kind of a crying shame that California has had like decriminalized weed or some level of medicinal weed for like 15 or 20 years. And everybody else is still fucking a decade or 2 decades behind. And the federal level appears to be 3 decades behind. I haven't shifted on the filibuster, but I do just want to emphasize to the audience or whatever, if you're wondering like, hey, these problems aren't getting fixed, we might need to conceptualize how we view power and how we view political advocacy. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Connor. All right, so since Connor Points already did his closing statements, the order for this is going to be Jolah, Spectre, Samantha, Pisco, and then CTV gets the last word because he got the first word and everyone got to respond to him first. So, Jolah, 1 minute, 30 seconds, uninterrupted on the clock. Go ahead.
Like I said, I don't want to be in a position where we need to restructure the filibuster. If we do have to keep it, we should make people actually have to defend their arguments. Maybe lower the vote count to 55. I don't know, something closer. The Biden admin and Democrats in the Senate have made every effort to reach out for bipartisan agreements. The Democrats come with a $2 trillion package for infrastructure. Republicans come back with like $200 billion, or maybe they'll just come back with like $5 just to prove a point. So they have no meaningful active participation in government whatsoever. And I think if we're going to be going into the 21st century, if we want to be competing with other countries, I know people bring up China an awful lot when it comes to things like green energy investment, infrastructure, how well-oiled our economic machine is. We have to be in a position to actually get this stuff done now. We can't wait for the slow, grueling process of perfect democracy at the state level to get this stuff done. When people are actively participating with these big elections, they should be having an actual say in their elections. There's no reason the Senate should have 50 Democrats who are elected by 40 million more people than the 50 Republicans. That gets to the point of extremes that is far past the threshold for a healthy democracy. We need to have a stable democracy. I agree. It can't move too quick, but right now we are at the point of inflexibility, and we might be cracking soon.
All right, thank you so much, Jolah. Spectre.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just used for obstructionist purpose, and it's just used by one party for that purpose, as far as I can tell. Like I said, the stuff with healthcare that they did under Obama is really concerning. If you ever want to see anything resembling socialized medicine get passed, you probably need to get rid of it. Yeah, unless Democrats want to start using it the same way when Republicans are in power, I really don't see an argument to keep this around at this point. This seems like a no-brainer for me.
All right, thank you, Spectre. Samantha.
Like I said, I'm actually gonna agree with that weirdo kind of like Democrat guy who was saying rather than getting rid of it, we should maybe look at ways to kind of like change it to kind of compromise on the filibuster, which is supposed to promote compromise. So either banning certain things from being able to be filibustered, or making it more difficult to initiate a filibuster, closing the like cutting it shorter on the closure time for final votes, or maybe lowering the amount of votes needed. And I think that's a better option than getting rid of it outright, because like I said, it's always good to be able to have some pushback to get people to rethink their decisions or a bill, maybe make people take a second glance over like, hey, did I miss something? Is this actually, going to affect a large portion of the population that don't want this? It just a second look. I mean, it can't hurt. It really can't hurt. But like the way it is right now, where you can just sit there and say, I filibuster and that's it, is fucking bullshit. They need to work for it. They need to initiate debate. They need to like get talking. And I think the lack of talking is really what's been hurtful to this country.
All right, thank you so much, Samantha. So Pisco, and then we're going to finish with CTV. So Pisco, minute 30 on the clock. Go ahead.
So far, everyone on this panel, except for CTV, seems to be okay with at least some reform of the filibuster. And I'm so sorry, CTV, but the question of national versus state prerogatives and sovereignty, that's the cat's out of the bag. It's too late. We are a national government now. People conceive of themselves as national citizens, and we have collective action problems that affect us on a national level. That was totally unaddressed by anybody. Was Jolah's point about the nature of some of the problems that we face by virtue of the fact that we're interconnected like ever before, the nature of the state fisc, the nature of these wide sweeping problems that are addressing us. We need to have collective federal action on these fronts. Think, for instance, with the pandemic and response to the pandemic. Another one is infrastructure. These are problems that require national action. And after the Civil War, I'm sorry to say, that battle has been won and lost, and our country must move forward with federal action. That's not to say there's no role for the states, but we're never going to go back to a place, and we shouldn't go back to a place where we are minimizing the role of the federal government. We're delegating to states, state legislatures, the power to elect our federal senators. And I think your entire conception and model of our national government is anachronistic.
Thank you, Pisco. So, CTV, a lot of people gave points, and you are the strongest person here, like in support of the filibuster. So, I'm going to up your time to 2 minutes just to give you enough time to respond to anything that people have said to you. So, 2 minutes on the clock, uninterrupted. Go ahead.
Well, Thomas Jefferson was very clear from the start whenever he said that. Wait, there it was. Where was it? Are you laughing now? I told you fuckers you were going to laugh, didn't I? Yeah. There we go. Right. What he said was that the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. Pisco, if you don't actually start listening to conservatives, you might end up in a situation where that fiction from the past becomes nonfiction today, right? So you better start listening, right? That being said, the number of bills and the number of things has been getting passed by the Senate only goes to prove the point that I am saying that this house is about to be on fire, right? Jefferson said a long time ago, if the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from the banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. Now, why is this applicable today? Because every fucking lefty on this panel and every other lefty that's out there arguing thinks that money is one of those things that can be printed infinitely, right, to the tune of $24 trillion now. I think it's 25, actually, right? Billions of dollars of debt that is being taken from the future that our grandkids are going to have to pay to the present to solve these problems. And that's where your entire ideology breaks down, because it doesn't address who's paying for this shit. That's exactly why the federal Senate is supposed to be the saucer that cools the hot teacup, so that these ideas, there's some rational thought about what's it going to cost, who's going to be paying for it, and who's going to have to pay that back. $24 trillion is not an amount that's going to be paid off in my lifetime. So that right there needs to be the question in which you're answering this, because the filibuster wasn't there originally, and it is developed as a way to be able to cool the house. Filibuster is gone. There is nothing at all cooling this house.
Thank you so much, CTV, for that last word. So, everyone, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. Does anyone here on the panel need a brief break to either get water, or use the bathroom, anything like that? Are we all good to go into topic number 2? All
I
right.
would like to get a beer, but you
All right.
can
Go.
just put me last.
I got you. All right, go grab a beer. Alrighty. So again, everyone, thank you so much that you're sticking with us. We're having a lot of fun right now. This topic was a bit more tame, but I feel like Connor and Pisco are going to get really mad at each other over the next topic. So I am very excited to see that, and I hope you are as well. We are going to be beginning this panel. Oh shit! All the things got fucked up because Pisco when his camera off. So now I don't know what the relations are. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go from Spectre. Spectre gets the first and last word on this, because I know he has a crazy spicy take. So we're gonna go from Spectre to Connor to Jolah to Samantha to Pisco, and then to CTV, finishing it out. Because a conservative had the first and last word in the last one, and now we're gonna give it to a lefty this time. So with that in mind, this topic is, should Democrats pack/expand the Supreme Court? So, minute 30 on the clock. Spectre, take it away.
So if my options are like do nothing or pack the Supreme Court, it would obviously be pack the Supreme Court. Biden would have to have like 2 unexpected vacancies at this point to be able to balance things out, due to the fact that the court is partisan, no matter how much we don't want it to be. We can look at countless bills, not bills. Well, actually, yeah, because they have judicial review. that have been just like, decided upon partisan lines, whether they're constitutional or not. Which is actually what I object to the most, is just the concept that they should have the right of judicial review, because it's not in the Constitution, in the same way that it's not limited to 9 justices in the Constitution. So you could just as easily make the argument that we need to find a way to not allow them to have judicial review anymore, the same way that most Western democracies do not allow their high courts to act as an unelected super legislator, and then we don't have this problem. Like, the only liberal argument for judicial review is basically that it protects vulnerable minorities. But like I said, the court's partisan. So you have like a conservative pro-slavery court that'll give you Dred Scott, but you could have a liberal court that gives you like Brown v. Board. But they just shouldn't be messing with the legislation passed by Congress anyway, because you can make an argument that something is or isn't constitutional based on what party you fall down.
All right, thank you, Spectre. Now we're gonna throw it to Connor. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh fuck. So no, and fuck no. You're setting a super weird precedent that like we can just fucking endlessly fill the courts with fucking justices. I think there's actually like a philosophical difference as far as like judicial process that we should talk about, which is like what do you call it, like legislating from the bench. If constitutional conservatives are worth their salt, they will actually interpret things constitutionally within the realms of their purview. Whereas progressive justices oftentimes sometimes they'll just make shit up so they can fucking set precedent on and then fucking build that shit up. Pisco's giving me fucking eyebrows. I can't wait to get into it. So no, and fuck this. And on top of that, I don't think this is an apocalypse. I don't think fucking Chicken Little. I don't think the sky is falling down. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, then I will allow progressives and leftists and liberals to freak the fuck out. If the court declines to hear Roe v. Wade, then I think this is hysteria. So I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you, Connor. Jolah, take it away.
So we were just talking about the filibuster, and of course McConnell used the Democrats. Didn't the Democrats extend, or no, McConnell extended a rule that the Democrats implemented where they bypassed the filibuster for lower courts, and they extended that to the Supreme Court, and that's why the last couple justices got nominated with no pushback, and confirmed with no pushback. So I think there should be debate on who is added to the court at the point where it is right now. Again, I don't want, ideally, huge shifts in anything. But right now, the last 2 to 3 justices were confirmed through purely political processes. There was no debate. There was no official review of the candidates. So we need to do something about it. I'm for a couple solutions, whether it's a rotating system where 2 justices are added every X number of years, or if there was a cap system where we added 2 justices right now to make things more balanced, and then capped it off for future debates and made it more of a strict process. But in general, we need to treat this as it is. Even Clarence Thomas, who is somebody that came in during Bush, we see the posts that his wife makes to Facebook concerning what he's doing on the Supreme Court. This is so political, and we need to be able to actually attack it as it is.
All right, thank you, Jolah. Samantha, go ahead.
Well, apart from my unrealistic take where only filthy centrists should be appointed to the Supreme Court because I believe it should not be a partisan issue, that's not a fucking reality thing that can happen. So I actually agree with Jolah's take here, where a rotating Supreme Court system where you add a couple every couple of years would be nice. Term limits don't really work, but that's the downside. Term limits aren't really going to work because they need time to kind of get into the swing of things, time to learn more and more as they delve deeper and deeper into the Constitution. However, what I don't like is the fact that people think you can just decide what is and isn't constitutional based off of political affiliation alone. Yeah, there's some differences there, but the Constitution is pretty cut and fucking dry. I mean, you can read it unless you're literally a fucking, I almost said the R slur again. Fuck. Unless you're a flat out dumb piece of shit, fucking horrible human being, it's pretty fucking clear. Just follow the fucking Constitution for fuck's sake.
All right, we're gonna throw it to Pisco now.
The preliminary matters. First off, on judicial review, I don't want to get into it with Spectre, but needless to say, I think it's implied in the powers of the federal courts. The framers thought that it existed, and I think that it's a good idea in terms of policy. On the question of whether or not the Constitution is obvious and cut and dry, I think it's very clear that it is not. I mean, what does due process mean? What does interstate commerce means? These terms don't explain themselves, and one of the reasons we have federal courts, including the Supreme Court, is to elucidate very unclear terms. So I would totally disagree with Samantha's notion that the Constitution is there to be read by anyone who's willing to do it. On the question of court packing, the court has already been packed. You guys maybe missed it, but the Obama administration failure to give hearings and failure to have votes on the Supreme Court nominees and the nominee and lower federal court nominees was court packing. It was worse than court packing, because at the very least, legislative court packing would require bicameral presentment and approval by the president. This kind of partisan non-hearing, non-vote having was done unilaterally by one party in one chamber. And none of you would be against coming back if it were a legislative kind of court packing. And similarly, I think you guys should understand the need and desire to come with legislative court packing in response to the court packing that happened by the Republicans.
All right, thank you, Pisco. All right, CTV, last opening statement. Everyone, now the floor is open to start raising your hands to begin. Right there. All right, so fuck. All right, so CTV, start talking. I'll go like prog con, just to make sure that we have a bit more of a discourse for this. So CTV, go ahead, buddy.
So I think that the reality that a lot of folks need to come to, right, is that when these justices get appointed to the Supreme Court, there's no politics in it, right? If there was, then perhaps maybe there would have been situations where, I don't know, say when the Wisconsin case was presented to the Supreme Court, that maybe they would have took a little bit closer look at it with regard to the election.
Oh my God.
But they didn't, right? So you want to sit here and say, well, it's all partisan. Oh, I know, Pisco, you're so horrible. So horrible. And then you keep talking. Like that's supposed to make it better. No, it doesn't, Mr. Pisco. It just doesn't. Right? Like, my goodness. So look, with regard to the courts, right? The idea that they are partisan whenever they go in to be justices in order to be arbiters of the Constitution and to interpret it for the people, right? That's what they're there for, right? How long has there been 9 justices? Quite a long fucking time. And then the idea that just somehow because, we perceive that there's an imbalance, we need to go in there and change it, only breaks down the republic even further. Because the whole reason why Supreme Court justices are appointed to lifetime appointments is so that politics does not get in the way of their ability to be arbiters of the Constitution on behalf of the people. And that's the reality, folks.
All right, thank you, CTV. Sorry, Pisco.
Sorry about that. I was
okay. Just make sure that remember during closing opening statements, no interruptions whatsoever, and try and keep it to a minimum. Like when we're talking as well, try and keep the responses afterwards. So right now, Joel, just a quick question: did you have your hand raised at the beginning of this or no? All right. So right now the list goes: Pisco, Connor, Spectre, Samantha. Pisco, 2 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to have an admission from everyone on this panel that what happened under the Obama administration, where they were giving non-hearings and non-votes to duly nominated appointees by Obama, was court packing. I'm not going to have it be said on this panel that the only form of court packing is passing a law. And until we can establish what happened in that interim, and until we can agree that that was court packing, then we're going to have problems. Because you're just going to say, well, that was just the plenary authority of the Senate to just not give hearings. And that's just power politics. And that's just how it goes. What's good for the goose is what's good for the gander. If it's a question of power politics, then passing a law is way preferable to giving discretionary non-hearings from the Senate. But if it's a matter of principle of not making politics infect our court system, it already happened. And I want to hear a response from people whether they consider what happened to be court packing.
All right. I feel like that's open to everybody, but unless someone has a specific response to that, we're going to throw it to Connor.
Sure.
I think the increasing the number of seats is court packing myself.
All right. CTV, would you like to elaborate on that before we throw it to Connor?
Connor, go ahead. I think that adding number of seats would be what most would consider court packing. So.
All right. And CTV, would you like to be on the list?
I think that's a yes.
All right,
Okay.
awesome. Go ahead,
So
Connor. Yeah.
okay. So maybe Pisco can elucidate because I don't even fucking. You were like, hey, maybe people know that they would say that it's a plenary power of the Senate. Motherfucker, I'd have to Google that term. All right, so like maybe you can explain fucking plenary. But the point being that I I can admit that something was fucked up, and I'm actually kind of curious what would have happened if okay, so would you have a different opinion if they had met with the justice, done the interviews, all that kind of stuff, and if they had like voted to decline him, even if they had bad reasons? Would that have been a better situation for you individually?
Please respond.
Happy to answer that. Yes, that would be it would be different because at
Mhm.
the very least you're giving reasons to the public. You know,
Mhm.
they're not competent because of X. You're having hearings, you're listening to them. It's putting pressure on these Congress people to actually address why are they voting down all these totally qualified judges, including Merrick Garland, who was a centrist that Obama appointed for the Supreme Court. The non-hearing was extremely worse than having a hearing on the merits and then just voting down. And so I think that yes, it's absolutely comparable, and I think everyone should answer whether or not they think it's a problem in their head or whether it's court packing, which I think it is.
All right.
Okay, then just follow up question, and then I can yield the floor, and I kind of want to think a little bit. But basically, so now, what would be the necessary process in order to quote unquote like pack the courts? What would be the next step where people basically we would go from however many justices how many justices we have now to maybe doubling it or tripling it or whatever? What would be that process?
I would add 2 Supreme Court seats, and I
Mhm.
would add probably a couple dozen lower federal court judge positions.
Okay. And is that something you were saying that would need to be like legislated or something like that? So are you saying like
A
they
law.
would have to break the filibuster, and then after breaking the filibuster they would have to say we want 2 extra seats on the Supreme Court. This passed in the House, this passed in the Senate.
Yeah, I would need to break the filibuster.
Okay.
It's not going to
Interesting.
happen because it's not going to break the filibuster.
No, but I mean that's still it's still interesting to think about. And come back to me. I'm sure Pisco and I can piss each other off in the next few minutes. I'm just I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
All right. Take as long as you need. All right. Right now the list is Spectre, Samantha, CTV, back to Pisco, and then Jolah. So, Spectre, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, wait, no. Just to clarify, Pisco, can't the president simply just like say I'm going to am I going to appoint another Supreme Court judge, and then like the Senate, unless they refuse to hear it, like it's fine? Is that not how? Like, where in the Constitution does it outline they can't do that? I thought that was the whole argument for court packing.
Can
Yeah, the
you lean in
president.
closer to your mic, Spectre, when you talk, bro? Like your mic's still coming in really, really weak. I got you at 200%.
Yeah, how's that?
Much better. Just lean into it, bro. Lean into it.
So the president does not have the authority. Now there is like a temporary appointments clause of the Constitution for vacant appointments, but the president does not have broad authority to the number of justices set by Congress. The only justice who's constitutionally mandated is the Chief Justice.
All
In
right.
fact, lower federal courts are even mandated. That's called Madison's Compromise. You don't even need to have lower federal courts.
Hmm.
And you said
Is
that
that-
the number of justices is set by Congress?
Yeah, it's set by statute, by federal law. It used to be different. It used to be less. It used to be more.
Okay, so then it would have to go through Congress to be able to. Okay,
That's correct.
As far as your question as to whether what happened there was court backing, yes, what happened after, like under Trump, was absolutely court backing. 174 to like district courts, like 54 to the Court of Appeals. Like once Obama was out, those appointments just flew through the Senate. It was a calculated move by Mitch McConnell. I don't think it's unreasonable to counterpack and put additional justices on to try and get things moving back the other direction, because otherwise, like I said, we're waiting on 2 vacancies, and there's no way that stuff like healthcare is going to survive judicial review with the way that the Supreme Court looks right now, and we might even, see them do something like reverse Roe v. Wade, worst case scenario.
All right. So, Connor, I have you on the list. Did you have a specific, like, quick response to Spectre, or you just wanted to be on the list?
Yeah, so it's really the term counterpacking, and I kind of want to open this up because I think this is the thing that Pisco and I could beef on. I feel like the conservative concern when it comes to justices specifically is that some people legislate from the bench. You kind of raised your eyebrows when I said that. I'll say it again. So the reason why I say that is because so for instance, I think it's specifically the court in California. They took it upon themselves in order to pass pretty aggressive gun control laws within the state of California. They also took it upon themselves in order to affirm basically like anti-constitutional laws when it came to carry. So not only were they saying that like concealed weapons permits could be basically arbitrarily granted by the county sheriff, but basically that arbitrariness was constitutional, and basically local law enforcement officers were the people who got to determine who had the right to keep and bear arms, and they affirmed this multiple times. When you look at like the assault weapons ban that had the temporary, basically the temporary pushback in California right now, this is just indicative of like a conservative concern that what's going to happen with this counter packing, as Spectre is calling it, is basically that people are going to be making shit up from the fucking bench, and we're going to have to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court in order to get a ruling that is actually in line with the Constitution.
All right, Pisco, would you like to respond to that before we throw it to CTV?
Yeah,
Samantha?
it's a problem that persisted also in the first conversation. Is you're assuming a given issue, and you're assuming that you're correct about something. So in the context of
I'm not assuming shit.
yeah, so you said, for instance, to have an actual law that comports with the Constitution, the people we want deciding that question are those very judges. And so it seems weird that we would assess the structure of our government with reference to specific issues and what you feel is or is not a worthwhile opinion on that, based on one ruling. These courts do a lot more than that one ruling. And then also your implication actually explicitly saying that quote unquote liberal judges just make up shit. That's not what happens. And maybe you can point to Miranda as something that was a judicial creation, but oftentimes the courts explicitly look to policy, and that's not something that is an aberration. That's something that is done oftentimes by both conservative and liberal judges, but they're not just like making law from the bench in the way that you describe.
God damn it. So you're okay. So here's the fucking thing. Just looking at like Chicago's handgun ban, or looking alternatively at like California's concealed weapons, basically permit standards, where there's entire counties that may issue counties in which like the county law enforcement officer is the only person who has the ability to issue concealed weapons permits, and they exercise that shit like willy fucking nilly to the point. And this happens in New York too, by the way, where the only people who have access to get a concealed weapons permit in the state of California or the state of New York are rich, connected motherfuckers. This has not like you can say that they created like this rule right here, and then they based a whole bunch of fucking case law off of it, and they built it into this big, massive, fucking self-reinforcing fucking structure that we should honor because judges are citing each other's fucking work in order to do so. But for me, the core of it is rotten. Because if you look at like the philosophical founding, if you look at what the was written in the Federalist Papers, if you look what was written about the Second Amendment, it's pretty fucking clear that the balance of power is between the people and the fucking state. So to pretend that people aren't basically creating what they want out of basically laws, and then self-reinforcing it based off of people who have similar opinions, that might be true on the conservative side too. But I often think that the conservative side is based in conservatism, basically meaning the original idea from which those ideas were sprung. That would be my perspective on that.
All right, Pisco, respond to that, and then we are going to throw it to Samantha and CTV. So go ahead.
The Second Amendment issue that you're citing is a difficult issue. You're saying, is it too much discretion that we're giving to cops, and is that allocation of discretion to these may issue states, does that violate the Second Amendment? First of all, it's not clear. The Federalist Papers weren't referencing the Second Amendment because, of course, the Bill of Rights was not a thing before the passage of the Constitution. And so, and furthermore, the Bill of Rights did not apply as to the states in those early days. And so it's not entirely clear issue of law that what you're citing, that it's just so obviously unconstitutional. We don't know the metes and bounds of where the Second Amendment will end up. We don't know if it only applies when you're in the House or if it applies outside of it. And this is a tough issue with not a lot of clarity and a new emerging areas of law. And you're mad at one opinion, and that's your basis for being upset with like other structural parts of are federal courts. I don't
because I think it's fundamental and I think it's analogous. Hans, I can let it go in a fucking second. Because I think it's fundamental and I think it's analogous. And not just that, like this is what I think lawyers in these courts tell themselves. This is what I think they tell each other when they go out for fucking beers is it's complicated. There's a lot of historical opinions. I don't know, man. Who even knows what the founding fathers wanted? But the fucking problem with that is like if you go and look at the Articles of Confederation, if you go and look at the Bill of Rights, if you go and look at the people who basically wrote all this shit down, they had so much of their own personal philosophies written into their fucking diaries that you can absolutely understand the intention behind some of these laws. So 1776 was not fucking 1200 before Christ. There are plenty of written records from the past 200 to 300 years. So to act like this is like unobtainable fucking information is just, it's not right. It's not correct.
All right, so we're gonna throw it now to Samantha. So Pisco and Connor, you both like had a nice little dialogue there. It was very, very good for all of us. Like I didn't want to stop it. So I moved you both this down like to the bottom of the list just so we can get some other voices on here. So the current list goes Samantha, CTV, Jolah, Connor, Pisco, and then Spectre. So actually, Spectre will be above you two, but like go ahead, Samantha.
Thanks for skipping me. There was a bunch of Blackhawks taken off. Yeah, can confirm Connor's thing with California. Like my county actually had me go to the sheriff to sign off on my CC, which is not how it's done in every state. California is this bullshit ass fucking stupid when it comes to fucking gun shit because they're stupid. But the thing I wanted to get back to the Supreme Court with my original thoughts on like the packing thing. I really think it would be unfair. As Jolah said, to be like, oh, well, maybe we should just add a couple of these people to balance it out. And I think that's kind of like unfair and stupid and kind of like, goes against like the democratic process of electing people to the Supreme Court. Because I know it sounds good now. It sounds great because Democrats are in charge, but like it would really, I am sure you wouldn't feel the same way if like Republicans were in power and then you're like, and they were like, hey, you know what would be really cool if we get rid of all these Democrats on the Supreme Court, add a bunch of Republicans, balance it out. And like everybody throwing a shit fit, Twitter would try to burn down half the fucking country. It'd be great. But like, I just think that's a fucking horrible idea. And I think even getting when they got rid of the filibuster to be able to like go against some of the nominees that were put up, I thought that was a fucking horrible idea. I think that putting a person on the Supreme Court is something that has to go through a very strict democratic process, multiple lines of questioning from both fucking sides, even though they're all stupid too. But multiple lines of questioning, have proper credentials, not be a fucking dick shit, and like get put on. And I think making this such a fucking partisan issue is fucking stupid, and balancing it out is also fucking stupid. And trying to reject people through non-democratic processes is also fucking stupid. It's stupid.
All right.
Stupid.
All right, we're gonna throw it to CTV.
Well, the reality here is what I said to begin with, right? The courts, when they are appointed, they serve for lifetime appointments. The reason for that is to make sure that they don't have any sway from any politicians and whatever it is that they're advocating for, so that they are a voice and an arbiter for the Constitution and the people. That being said, the idea that we need to give them terms, that we need to in any way the court by increasing the numbers so that we can put more liberals into place, right? I think speaks to what Pisco is most upset about, right? Which is that if I'm not mistaken, there was conversations happening between Democrats and Republicans with regard to some of these appointments, and Democrats chose to somehow allow this to come to fruition. I don't know all of the details, but overall, there was some talks between Democrats and Republicans as to how some of these things didn't take place. Is that true, Pisco?
No, the Republicans refused to give hearings to even centrist appointed by the Democrats. So no.
No conversation at all. Just Republicans stonewall and everything.
Yes, Republicans stonewall and everything. There might have been some pro forma conversations, but nothing of substance. That's why they got rid of they used the nuclear option to get rid of the filibuster with respect to judges, because they weren't giving hearings.
Okay, so then because of that, right, we have the system which prevented the liberals from being able to quote unquote pack the courts, and because it didn't go your way, right, now you're upset about it. But in reality, it's like the judges, when they come up for appointments, all that has to do with like them wanting to continue to do the job, for one, or if they die, right, then obviously there becomes a vacancy in the court. Is that not correct?
No, it's not correct. I don't agree with the characterization.
Okay, you don't agree with the characterization. I'm talking specifically about the framework. So if you would please, then, since you don't like the framework, lay out the framework for me, buddy.
For the appointment of judges?
Yeah, please
Yeah,
respond.
Yes. So the president, for federal judges, the president nominates and the Senate considers and advises and consent. If they give their consent, he's put into power, or they're put into power. It's a president approval, a president nomination, and Senate approval, and then they're confirmed.
Okay, so in
the
there,
Senate has authority. Yeah.
there though, what we're speaking to specifically, I think that more of your argument has to do more with the lower courts rather than just the Supreme Court. Is that
It's
correct?
both. It's both, because it's there was a Supreme Court vacancy when Scalia died. That the same thing happened.
Okay, so there's one example in the federal Supreme Court, and there was some disagreement about who would fill that seat, right? Because you mentioned Merrick Garland earlier.
They
right?
didn't even get a hearing. Yeah,
Didn't even get a hearing because they didn't agree to begin with, right?
they didn't agree that Obama should get any say on it.
But if they would have put forth a candidate that the Republicans liked,
No,
then they would no.
No,
You-
Merrick Garland was a centrist candidate. He
was a compromise
designed-
candidate.
Yeah, he was literally designed to appease Republicans, and they still made him wait 279 days, 4 times longer than like the record behind that of ever having to wait for a fucking hearing for a Supreme Court judge. Like, it was just blatant obstructionism. Like, yeah, and Trump got 3 people on the Supreme Court as a result of it. It's really dumb. They
So
shouldn't be
is that
able
any
to-
different than other examples that have happened in history, though? Like, and I don't know all of the details, but I know that Harry Reid is along those same kind of lines, right?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
Harry,
Harry Reid, in response to Republicans not giving, not even like allowing the regular lower federal court judges to go through, in response, he got rid of the filibuster for the lower federal courts, and then they started passing them, and then they lost the Senate in 2014, and so but there kept on being vacancies, and Obama kept nominating, and they kept on giving non-hearings. They didn't even consider them.
So the reality here is that Reid screwed the pooch. Is that what I'm hearing?
wait,
Nah, this is pretty aggressive
No.
power play.
one sec, yeah, like
Okay. No.
Pisco CTV, both of you like think about like a specific response to this. So it's just not like a back and forth. Like, is this no, yes? We're gonna throw it to Jolah, then to Connor, and then to we're gonna Jolah, then Spectre, then Connor, then Pisco and CTV can both have a long form statement on this. So Jolah, go ahead, buddy.
I think this is another instance where Republicans are preventing our system from operating as intended. I know the centrists want centrist judges, and they are the reason we cannot have good things. Obama did try it with Merrick Garland. They wouldn't even listen to it. The only reason they made the changes, as you just discussed, the reason Democrats made the rule changes in 2013 was because of nominations other than Supreme Court justices. McConnell decided to do the power grab, of course. I think that's a very bad thing. And when we talk about making this all political, I think it's pretty political that Republicans are basically going to obstruct anytime Democrats have a chance to appoint anybody, and they're basically going to try to time when people are going to die for another Republican to be president, so that Republican president can appoint somebody. In like Pennsylvania for our Supreme Court, there are elections to actually directly elect judges. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about an outwardly political process where people are going to be literally judging these decisions, and people are going to be voting directly on who's going to be nominated to the Supreme Court. Right now, it's hyper partisan. It's not democratic. There's nothing good about the current system, and I think it needs to be somewhat of a living body. It needs to be a living Supreme Court at this point, because that's the reality we are facing right now. It's not 1770 whatever. We are in the year 2021, and these are the landscapes that we're facing right now.
All right, thank you, Jolah. We're gonna go to Spectre, and then Connor, and then Pisco and CTV. So Spectre, take it away.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping that me and Connor could come together with our dislike of lawyers here and just agree that they shouldn't have, the right of judicial review at all.
Hey, you won me over.
Like,
I mean, No, but seriously, like we shouldn't allow them to like they're unelected, right? They're just appointed, and they have the ability to just say like this is or isn't constitutional, and they always make the side from a partisan like side of the aisle argument whether it is or isn't constitutional because they're lawyers and they can argue. They're good at it. Like instead, we should have them appointed because they like know the law and can be good judges and hear cases that get appealed up to them. Like I said, most other Western democracies don't have their high courts functioning as super legislators like this. And Pisco, this wasn't the framers' like intent for them to do this. It's a power that they asserted from themselves in Marbury v. Madison. No, like that's Where in the Constitution does it say that they're supposed to function as a super legislator?
All right, Pisco, research a little bit on the super legislative thing.
I
We're
got
gonna throw it to Connor, and then we're gonna throw it to you. So, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm okay with judicial review is because I think that there's going to be plenty of fucking people who fight back and forth, and not just that. It's kind of the ultimate check. One of the concepts that I'm going to keep going back to whenever it comes to this conversation, because it is the actual, maybe not the bullshit conservative reason for wanting what we want from a libertarian or conservative thing. I think it's the legitimate reason is that legislators sometimes just make shit up. They just make shit up at the state level, or they make shit up at the federal level, and then they need somebody to come and slap them in the dick. And I am perfectly okay with a bunch of lawyer nerds on Capitol Hill fucking fighting each other and slapping each other in the penis. It's great for me. Great entertainment. So no, and then just to kind of hammer home what my point is and what my concern is. I don't know if the Chicken Little fucking ceiling is falling. I think that I would hope that if the Supreme Court was thinking in any kind of partisan way whatsoever, that they would know that if they overturned Roe v. Wade, they've effectively lost the Republicans' like elected representation for like a century. I would hope, but I don't know for a fact that if Democrats passed an assault weapons ban, they would lose electoral politics for a decade. So that's kind of where I'm kind of counting on the mutually assured destruction, the nuclear option. I'm a little bit more optimistic than y'all. And my real concern is basically people legislating from the bench. So this is why I don't like progressive judges. This is why I don't like liberal and progressive judges, because I think they just fucking make shit up. So, yeah.
All right, Pisco, you got added by both Spectre and Connor. So for this, I'm going to give you a bit of extended time. So you have 2 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock to explain this in whatever way you see fit.
Great. Well, it is true that there's no explicit provision in the Constitution allowing for judicial review. It was referenced by in the Federalist Papers by the framers, and that's not dispositive on whether it does or does not exist. And you can have arguments either way. I think it's a good power ultimately because the court only has the power of their persuasion, and so typically I think they don't go out to write explicitly political opinions, much as Connor has not even implied, has said that they are doing. And also because they use the power of persuasion, oftentimes they do what you say they don't do, which is consider the law and read it and give their reasons and interpretations. So ultimately, I think it's a good power to have, but we can have the discussion elsewhere. On the question, though, that I want to get addressed by this whole panel is the following. Are you okay with the Republicans in the Obama administration not giving hearings to federal judges and to Merrick Garland? And if so, why? I want everyone to answer that on the other side. Were you okay with that? And if you were okay with that, why were you okay with that?
All right, so this is a question for the whole panel. Then I obviously can't raise my hand or not because I'm modding. Everyone else, please, if it's a yes, raise your hand if you thought that was okay. We'll do a yes, a no, and then if you want to explain it further, we can give each of you a chance to explain yourselves, right? Because I think this
is an attempted use at the filibuster, obviously, right? Pisco must have learned something from the last conversation because now he's attempting to control the panel because we knew that CTV was supposed to be going next.
No, you still have your. He hasn't.
I know the past is something that you don't bother studying, right? And you just make shit up along the way.
TV, he has you on his list. He's been very good about checking it and giving counter and not taking away your time just because you have a counter.
I know, but you're the one doing it, sir.
No, I'm asking
you propose a grand question. The same question you've asked this the third time.
But I haven't gotten answers. That's why I'm asking it.
All right, so like,
Okay.
like you're all welcome to think about. You have to answer it right now, but like we can go to this
Can
like
I-
in a
I can-
second.
Can
Yeah,
I give
please
like a 10-second answer?
go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we'll
So
go to CTV.
it's not okay. I would have preferred if they just heard it and then basically said, nah. And the reason why we're voting you down isn't because you're not competent. It's because we want to win federal judgeships. So that would have been better.
Would you have a problem with that rationale?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, it's completely fucked.
Right.
It would be similar to passing a law and saying we want to just because so you can have a liberal judge on that, right? It's the same rationale, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, and I think both.
Oh,
are
it's court
fucked.
packing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's the same thing.
yeah, but two.
It's actually
two-
worse. What I'm saying about is actually worse because my
Yeah.
version of it, you only have the Senate doing it, and the other, and in the quote unquote court packing through legislative means, at least every house and the president is getting a say. Correct?
Yeah, but then I ask you the question. It's like, so we should do two bad things because Republicans did the bad thing. So we
Well, I'm
should. do the
glad you
bad
said it
thing
was
too?
court packing. I'm glad you said it was court packing. My next question is the following, and this is the one
Sure.
that I never get a response on.
Sure.
If imagine the Republicans in the Obama administration had passed a law, or sorry, not Obama, it'd have to be a Republican president. Suppose that in the Trump administration, the Republicans, when they controlled everything, had passed a law, increased the number of seats, and Trump had nominated everybody, and now the Democrats get in power. Would you be angry with the Democrats responding by passing their own law?
No.
Okay, so then that's exactly what's happening now. You've said it's the same thing. It might be even worse. And
right? Hold on.
Connor,
Hold on.
yeah.
Mhm.
If you want to answer this right now, or you want to take a breath, let CTV go, and then you can respond once you've had like a second to think about it.
No, I wouldn't mind responding right now. So you kind of walked me down the whether or not it's fucking worse thing. No, because I think the basically the plenary power to refuse to hear seats in a convenient time is something that the Democrats have when they're in power. There's no added power. Adding in a law specifically in order to stack the courts after the fact is setting a precedent that will be used by the other side in order to keep the tit for tat fucking shit going. So no, I think the tat is worse than the tit in this circumstance.
Tit.
So if you want a tat for the tit, I think we're fucking up. I think we're
why was
fucking
it
up
worse?
with the
Say,
thread.
why was it worse? Why was it worse for the Democrats to pass a law instead of just having this non-hearing and then pushing everyone in?
Because
it would be worse.
Wait. All right. Answer why it's worse, and then we are going to CTV. He's been waiting very patiently. So
okay. Because Democrats still technically have this power now. If there's fucking vacancies, they can refuse to fucking hear people going forward. They can play the same fuck games.
All right. So right now we have CTV and then Spectre and everyone. We have 11 minutes left in this before closing statements for this. So if you want to get in, start raising those fucking hands. So CTV, take it away, buddy.
Fucking pro-muted.
Wait. CTV. What? Yeah, buddy.
You're muted.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I got to be honest with you, right? Somebody in my chat just subscribed for a full year in advance. So I had to address that in chat, right?
Totally worth it. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone, like, CTV is a very fun conservative. Everyone sub to him if you're in his chat right now.
That being said, look, this sounds Pisco, right? Because it's not like anybody broke the law when these things were going through, right? So the politicians are playing the politicians' fucking game, which is exactly why we, the people, need to make sure that we limit the framework in which these fucking politicians can do shit, right? That's where we're at. So the fact that you're pointing it out, it's like, okay, there's a problem there. Could be. I'm not completely sure because I don't know all of the particular nuance, right? Because one, I haven't graduated law school, right? I spent all my time, sailing up underneath the ocean ready to destroy the world within 14 fucking minutes, right? That said, though, it certainly sounds like what I hear a lot on the left is we don't like these rules, so we want to bitch about them over here. But if the situation was reversed, we would be okay with it, which I'm not saying that that's what you're saying because I know you and I got a lot of respect for you. But a lot of arguments that would be made on the left itself would be along that kind of characterization where they're like, oh, fuck the conservatives. We don't give a fuck what they think anyway. Right. So then it's like, well, rules for thee, but not for me. And then we get the situation to where we are now. Well, would have been if it would have been not done. But You get what I'm saying. That said, though, the idea that we should be increasing the number of justices on the Supreme Court simply because there's a perceived political affiliation does not mean that there in fact is, right? I think that the justices that are on the court now are doing the best job that they can to hold to the ideas of the Constitution, which we all live under with this federal government. The biggest conservative argument when it comes to the courts should be that the courts are holding to the Constitution and the limited framework in which the federal government was seen to have to begin with, right? Is where you get like individual rights for guns, finally being recognized, right, by the court. But in reality, it was never a question before then. It was just assumed that the individuals had the right to defend themselves. So, oh man, seems more like rules for thee, but not for me.
All right, we're gonna throw it to Spectre, and then to Pisco, and then to Connor. So Spectre, go ahead. Spectre.
Sorry. No, I guess so yeah, I want to answer what Pisco was asking first. Like it's obviously court packing. They waited 279 days and basically just said, well, we don't have to actually have a hearing for him. We're not even going to vote on him. He's a lame duck president. That's unprecedented. That's not, and I guess it's not it's not unconstitutional, but it's an extra constitutional thing to do. As far as adding things back as a response to that, like, yeah, we have to do it at this point because otherwise we're hoping that there's going to be 2 vacancies under fucking Biden, and like it doesn't look like anybody's going to be retiring or dying in that time period. So that being said, hold on, I have something else written down here. Yeah, I don't think that this idea that the court is bipartisan like holds any water. We can see the way that they like legislate along issues that you have like conservative justices and like liberal justices. And one of the
Except they
issues,
don't legislate.
Like, please, just let him finish, and then if you want after, you can respond.
they can rule on legislation whether or not it's constitutional, and they will make pro-constitution or like it's unconstitutional arguments based along like usually the politics of the president that appoints them. So this is really just a way for presidents to have effects of their like economic and social beliefs impacting on like future legislation down the line after they're out of office. That's all the function that this serves at this point.
All right, CTV, would you like to respond to that before we throw it to
No,
Pisco?
I just wanted to make sure that it was pointed out that the court doesn't actually legislate, right? That's why we have the Congress, right? The courts simply rule, right?
All right, got it. Thank you, CTV. All right, Pisco, 2 minutes on the clock. Wait 1 second. We're getting some echo. Whose is that?
I don't think it's me.
All right. Just
Might have
make sure
been.
like awesome. Just make sure whoever's doing that to try and fix that. So Pisco, 2 minutes on the clock. Take it away.
Yeah, on that point, I think Spectre is levying a criticism that they are, and so is Connor points that they are in effect legislating from the bench, not that they're recognizing that's their judicial role. So I think you should take it as a critique of the court, not necessarily he's misrepresenting what the court does, which in his mind I guess isn't misrepresenting. On the question of passing a law to increase the size of the court, that is not illegal to do. Everyone must agree with that. It is not unconstitutional to do. I would never say it's illegal or unconstitutional for these politicians to give non-hearings or to not give hearings to nominations. Of course, it's not illegal to do that or unconstitutional. They have every right to do that. And Congress has every right to pass a law increasing the number of people on the Supreme Court or the number of benches in the lower federal courts. So there's no question of legality. Both increasing the size and not giving hearings are both perfectly legal things to do. Counterpoint says initially he agreed with me that actually the discretionary non-hearings was worse because it only requires one house and really one party to do. But then he goes on and says it's actually worse because you're increasing the pie or something. It was not made clear to me why it would be worse for Congress to pass a law that needs approval from both houses and the president to increase the partisan balance. That's all we're caring about here is the partisan balance, not the actual number of seats there are. That no one actually cares about, 11 versus 9. They care about how is this going to affect our lives. And to that extent, right, isn't it better to have any increase of the partisan balance in purely partisan terms be sought or overseated, but sorry, that the people overseeing it would be two houses as opposed to one house and the president. So yeah, I want a better enunciation of why it is the fact that passing a law increasing the absolute number of seats in the federal courts is worse than the non-hearings if all we care about is the partisan balance.
All right, Connor, you got added, and you were next. So we're gonna give you 2.5 minutes to respond to this, and then we're depending on how long you go, we're gonna have one more person, or we're gonna go into closing statements for this topic. So take it away, Connor.
Yeah, it can be my closing statement too. Yeah, so let's talk about why I think it's more simplistic first, or quote unquote like not as bad. It's because when presented with a similar opportunity right now, because precedent has been set, Democrats can exercise a similar plenary power. They can just not approve justices. They can be lazy about it. They can say we got other priorities. Appointing justices isn't our priorities right now. We're going to go ahead and just wait out the next 2 years. We'll appoint them when we're in power. They can do shit like that. The reason why I was saying that it sets a bad precedent is because I don't know where this ends. Now, maybe the fucking Democrats just pass, a balanced court, and they just say, yeah, we're going to literally pass it fucking, 6-6, 10-10, whatever the fuck, in order to actually have a balanced court, and we just call it there. Also, what maybe happens is because the Republicans are dickholes, they go, oh, you just opened it up for a simple majority because you blew up the fucking filibuster and then just started court packing. On top of that, we're going to demonize you in the press, how you're a bunch of fucking evil monsters who are fucking legislating from the bench, and how you just court packed in fucking broad daylight, and so basically we're going to do the same shit. And so all I see is I don't see mutually assured destruction preventing the nuclear war. I see the nuclear war kicking off. So that's kind of where I'm at from a pragmatic perspective and maybe a philosophical one. I don't know. I kind of think that not state level, but federal legislators dragging ass when it comes to their duties in order to have political advantage is kind of what they do. Maybe it was particularly egregious, but isn't that just kind of what fucking senators and House of Representatives reps do? Is drag their ass to be politically expedient? I'll leave it there.
All right, thank you, Connor. Jolah, I saw you raise your hand. We're going to go into closing statements, but you are first on the list for the next topic after all the closing statements. I hope that is a worthy consolation, and you can, depending on how long your statement, you can go a little bit longer than normal. So with that in mind, Spectre's gets the last word on this one because he had the first word. So we're going to go from Connor to Jolah to Samantha to Pisco to CTV to Spectre. So Jolah, got 2 minutes on the clock for your closing statement. Go ahead, buddy.
So I think this is a product of people being very short-sighted and not informed about our living constitution. The idea that 9 justices is this holy number, like it's 777 or something, it simply isn't true. There's a reason this change can be made without an amendment to the Constitution because it's not a radical thing to do. There's a lot of countries that are a lot smaller than the U.S. who deal with a lot less complicated cases that have a lot more justices. It makes sense that we should have more ideological diversity and we should have more people interpreting these rulings. It just makes more sense with how complex things are getting moving further into the modern era. So with Republicans taking all these major power grabs, I don't think there's anything we can do to not justify some type of change or at least an attempt to make the process better. McConnell has already decided to use the powers of the Senate to say, hey, now we don't need there's no more filibuster. We don't need 60 votes for Supreme Court nominees. So now, guess what? If a Republican's president and the Republicans own the Senate with 40 million less voters, like they probably will after the next election. If that happens, then they can put anybody on the court who they want. Maybe McConnell decides to make this rolling anyway. Maybe McConnell decides to take away this power in the future anyway. I think Democrats have shown time and time again that they are willing to meet people in the middle. They are willing to participate correctly in this democratic process, even more than I would even hope them to. Electing centrists who are not going to offend anybody, and then Republicans have to come in like this and just, they're hungry for power, ruining our process.
Thank you, Jolah. Samantha, 90 seconds. Go ahead.
Don't care. I don't care who fucking packs it. I think it's stupid. Both political parties are playing stupid fucking games. Just trying to fucking one up each other. And Fuck them. They want to do that. I don't care. Just let me keep my guns, for fuck's sake.
Thank you, Samantha. All right, we're gonna throw it to Pisco. 90 seconds on the clock. Go ahead.
Yeah. What Connor says makes no sense at all. We understand that the thing that matters here is the partisan balance and how this is affecting our lives. And so, one judge writing in the opinion, siding in your favor because they're a partisan judge, however you want to define that, is no different in the eyes of you as 6 people being in the majority or whatever opinion that is. Or at least that's not the interpretation I think most people have of the court. What they want are the results they want. And so in that respect, this whole notion that, well, it's still balanced and Democrats still have the authority now that the precedent has been set by the Republicans to not give hearings, that shouldn't be how our process is, that we're giving non-hearings to judges to validly nominate a judge. We should be giving hearings. And it also doesn't make sense because it's the same thing is true for the congressional enactment. The Republicans will 100% still have the power to pass a law if they don't like it to increase the number of courts. So there's balance on both sides of that equation. And so it's not a distinguishing factor between the two things. And so finally, what I want to leave off with and close off with is the court packing has already been done. We didn't get an answer from CTV, but Connor points at the very least acknowledged that this was court packing by another name. Even if he says that it's something typical that senators do, which it's not like they just were lazy. They made an active and malicious decision not to give hearings to these judges. And that is precisely the problem. It wasn't an act of normal Senate rules. And so since the court was already packed through this non-hearings, of course it makes sense for Democrats to respond in a modest way with a legislative enactment, which is much less worrisome in terms of institutional power.
All right, thank you, Pisco. All right, CTV. 90 seconds on the clock. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I think it's obvious at this point, right? Again, it's rules for thee, but not for me, right? If the exact opposite would be being said, you would see Pisco arguing, well, CTV, if you want to change something, then call an Article 5 Convention of the States, right? And amend the Constitution. That's what you would be hearing. But because it wasn't favorable to the left side of the argument, right? Now it's, this is court packing by different means, right? To me, again, rules for thee, not for me. So because the system is the way that it is, and no law was broken, people, let's understand that from the get-go, right? No law was broken. Our Constitution was followed. Pisco is saying that the process shouldn't be this, right? Well, this process has been the same for how long? Well, I'd say since the founding, since there's not an amendment that I can think of off the bat that changes the process in which the Supreme Court is nominating its justices, right? So I don't fucking know. Maybe it seems like that's a bedrock of what the fuck we're doing around here as a nation. So that being said, 9 Supreme Court justices has been the case for a long fucking time. And the idea that somehow that people are smarter in the 21st century, I think is far and away from the actual truth, considering that Pisco would be arguing more for the federalization and centralization of power than he would be for keeping that power at the state level, right? And to me, that shows a gross mischaracterization of what the Constitution was originally intended to do. Sure, we've had arguments along the way, but the fact is that we are still a union, right? And at any point, as a matter of fact, there's states already, with different legislations being put on the books with the possibility of secession, right? Has been for a lot of years that they pass those, they put those votes up to, or push those bills up to a vote, because there is a lot of talk with regard to the centralization of power because it takes away the sovereignty of the state.
How are you? All right.
With regard to the courts, it's obvious 9 is what we need. We need the process to say the same so that these judges, whenever they get into office, do not have to bend the knee, period, to political whims, and they can rule as they see fit based off of their understanding of the Constitution and what they feel like is the original intent of it. Right? And that's what their job is supposed to be. If politics is allowed to enter that arena, you might as well say goodbye to the Republic.
All right. Thank you, CTV. All right. Last word of the night on this. Spectre. Go ahead, buddy.
Right. So 9 justices isn't necessarily outlined in the Constitution. I think Pisco went over the mechanism that we can increase that with. That is totally within the bounds of the Constitution, so I'm not going to waste any time on that. The issue is honestly that this isn't going to happen because liberals aren't going to do anything that would like violate institutions or appear to, because they have this they go low, we go high thing where they can't be the ones that are breaking the rules and playing dirty. I would love it if they did increase like the amount on the Supreme Court and managed to get 2 in there, which is what you would need. But I don't actually see them pulling that. And yeah, conservatives are going to continue to be obstructionist in this regard. It'd just be better if they couldn't affect legislation. Ultimately, my concern here would be the same way that they struck down the individual mandate from Medicare for All, or at least tried to, made constitutional arguments for that. They could apply that to any kind of like tax payment mechanism for socialized medicine in the future. It doesn't matter how progressive of a Congress that we get as long as we're stuck with the Supreme Court. So I would love to see something done. I don't see it happening, but I'd love to be proven wrong.
All right. Thank you, Spectre. So everyone, we're going to take a brief 3-minute break just to let me get some water and use the bathroom. And we're going to come to our final topic of the night, which is going to be, should we reform or abolish the Electoral College? So take anything you need. And then everyone who's watching, thank you so much for being with us. Follow all these amazing panelists. Feel free to drop all your links in whatever chat you think is the best for you. And everyone, again, thank you so much for watching. This is a very productive conversation. All right, I'll be right back. Everyone be good. No gamer words on my stream or on CTV stream. I assume none of us want to get nuked. Or
I swear, I promise, I'll be good.
Samantha, I'm fucking watching you. Because I know if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be you. So like,
what the fuck are you talking about? I love you.
I love you too.
Go.
Yeah,
I got you.
yeah. That's right. I see you. Yeah. Good. Googly moogly.
He said it. I don't care about any of the government as long as they fucking let me keep my fucking guns. I already have to deal with California. I don't need more shit from the federal government. California is fucking horrible. Fucking stupid ass state. Last camp. So I will never say how many guns I have. Never. What the fuck? I lost them all in a boating accident. Okay. They're all gone. They all fell overboard. Never seeing them again.
What restriction are you mad about from California?
Oh God. So last year I was finally able. So they were banning sale of 30-round mags. Even if you're at the range and had like 30-round mags or anything over 10, California, fucking stupid, right? Anything over that was considered illegal. Over 10. So like even at the range, like you could have that shit like confiscated, be written out, like it was illegal to possess at that point in time. The NRA fought back, pushed back, got it hold. They're challenging it, right? So which means like temporary. I mean, it's up in the it's a gray area now. Like if I'm caught at the range with them, like nobody's gonna do shit, but nobody can sell them. Like stores can't like they aren't stocking the shelves with them. I can do private sales, whatnot. So it's just fucking stupid.
Don't you think don't you agree with state sovereignty and letting the states
do I look like some
decide?
Confederate little fuck? No, fuck that shit.
It sounds like you just want your ideas.
I want the
everywhere
gun
you
laws in
are.
California. I want the gun laws in California to match the gun laws in Oklahoma, to match the gun laws in fucking Iowa, to match the gun like I think this is just something in America. These are the gun laws. Why does it have to be so fucking confusing?
Why that and not every other issue?
That's the only one. Fuck, I'm already trying to deal with the fucking trans issues, state by state, fucking Florida, Tennessee, fucking Montana, fucking these dipshit ass motherfuckers. Like, so like, there's nothing I can do to prevent that right now because it's already happening. This is something I can help prevent and help, fight to prevent.
Yeah, but it sounds like
right now my only recourse is dumping massive amount of money into the NRA because they have the fucking pull with lawyers and fucking people to be able to challenge this shit in courts.
Yeah, but it sounds like CTV and Counterpoints were totally upping and magnifying the importance of thinking locally and state issues. And letting
that's about to come up again.
states respond and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but guess what?
But
Guess
you
what?
want to
Yes, that's
federalize gun
important too.
laws.
That's important too. But okay, but you got to understand, this is right now. I live in the Bay Area of fucking California. Having a gun here is already fucking hard enough. Okay. But the thing is, say people want to move state to state, right? They shouldn't have to fucking, like when I moved here, I had a involuntary buyback of certain firearms. It's fucking stupid. But like I can go to other states, you know, and like why make it so
States
confusing?
have laws,
Why
and
make
states
it
are
so
allowed-
confusing for law-abiding gun owners when they're just trying to move somewhere and like keep up with all this
Get
other
rid of
shit?
states
They
then. Why
spent
aren't you
8 years.
Get rid of states, right?
Well,
Why
I
have
don't give a fuck.
anything?
Like
Right?
that's kind of like
What?
weird, but no, it's not like why have everything. No, like that. Now you're you're fucking fear mongering.
Bro, I'm asking about the logic.
Have bake sales, okay?
No, so
No,
most people, most conservatives, right? They say we want small states, we want people to be in charge of their affairs.
I'm not a fucking
You-
conservative. Do I look like a fucking cuck? No.
Well, I'm asking the other conservatives here, like, what are your thoughts on that? You guys want to federalize gun laws, and you want to take away power from states.
Connor, CTV,
so-
would that make sense? CTV and Connor, the conservatives here. Would that make sense to just have like a fucking blanket? These are the gun laws of America. Like no matter if you're in California, New York, fucking Iowa, shit.
Yeah, it'd be real easy.
Like,
These are the traffic laws of America. This is the health, and everything is done by the federal government.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes.
All right.
No.
Thank you.
All right, so
No.
Connor doesn't agree
Eat
with
my
that.
butt. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
But Connor's a former Marine. He lives off of fucking crayons, for Christ's sake. You really gonna take his word as fucking gospel?
I'm not.
You
but-
joined the fucking army. I'm pretty sure you dipped tobacco at some point in your life. Get the fuck out of here.
Yes, okay. I still do from time to time. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Grizzly,
see?
Grizzly,
So-
long cut, wintergreen. What the fuck?
Get
You
the
know
fuck
what's up.
out of here.
Get me that.
I
long.
will not be talked down to by somebody who dips. All right.
I'll put it in your fucking Dr. Pepper bottle. Eat my asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
like-
You degenerate fuck. Get the fuck out of here.
All right.
For the record, a lighter note for the record, cauliflower wings are so fucking good. Everybody should
They're
try them at
good.
least
They're not
once.
that good.
Also, eggplant fries I just tried are fucking super dope.
They're good. They're not. They're not. That
Shut
great.
up.
They're good.
We'll debate this on Sunday.
All right, fair enough.
All right, we are all back now. So, for our final topic of the evening, it is going to be on whether or not we should. Oh, CTV just called me. 1 second. Did he like fall out of the thing? Oh yeah, he did. Oh, CTV, I got your call. You're back in the thing. Hope you can hear us.
Outstanding.
No worries. Sometimes, for whatever reason, sometimes it just like throws people out. Like I said before, time for our final topic of the evening, which is going to be about whether or not we should either abolish, reform, or maintain in place the existing structure of the Electoral College. I know there's some differing opinions among the lefties, among the conservatives. And Samantha, I know you're not technically conservative, but like you've been against most of like the stuff that like has been like for progress tonight from the lefty side. So I assume like.
Oh, so now I'm just
what do you
against
think?
progress. You're fucking.
Oh
sitting
my
there,
god!
like,
I
labeling-
am
For
a
that
Trump.
one.
Do not put those words in my mouth. It's literally
You just said you've been
because you
you've
were
been going against progress.
diametrically opposed to the three people that were lefties. Okay,
Because they're
I'm really.
dumb.
That's
And one's a
totally
fucking
fine.
Lawyer.
Oh my
One's a
god,
fucking fuck the lawyer.
that's totally fine. Like, but
He's not even a lawyer.
oh my
He's
god,
just a graduate. He's a
That-
half-ass lawyer.
that's so great. Although
He's working on it. All right.
Although
Everybody
Pisco-
be proud of Pisco. Okay.
Pisco, we did have a poll where we asked whether it was okay to dick slap lawyers, and the three choices were yes, no, and just Pisco, and you won by a landslide. So I just want you to like just
I won. As
Yeah.
in, it's okay, but only against me.
yes.
Yeah. That feels a little anti-Hispanic.
feel-
I don't know. Feels a little edgy.
I won't play that card.
It's Latin X, okay? Latin X.
All right. Feels a little anti-Latinx. I don't know.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. Opening statements for this one. Samantha is gonna get the first and last word on this one. 90 seconds on the clock. Should we abolish the Electoral College? Should we reform it, or should we do nothing with it? Samantha, go ahead.
Fuck the Electoral College. It should burn in the fires of hell. It should burn in the fires of fucking Mount Doom along with the ring. It's stupid.
Okay. Jolah. Jesus Christ. Go ahead, Jolah.
I think the Electoral College should be reformed. Instead of winner take all states, I'm for a proportional allocation of electoral votes. Just like imagine the Democratic primary without superdelegates. That's sort of how I want the Electoral College done.
Could you elaborate that on a bit?
So in the Democratic primary, if a state has 100 delegates and the state is split 50-50, then each candidate gets 50 votes. So like California and Texas and all those states, instead of what happens right now, politicians completely avoid deep blue and deep red states because they know which way they're going to go because they're winner take all and they'll get all the votes from there. There's going to be votes to compete for everywhere since electoral votes will be allocated based on this. And of course, this is another function of our democracy in which Democrats have to win by a blowout in order to even slightly win. Joe Biden got like 8 million more votes than Trump, and he barely won in a couple states. That is a mockery of democracy. I'm not really for that type of system. I do agree that there is some place to give some smaller states some more of a say, maybe a couple more electoral votes, make the process simplified. I don't think a national popular vote would ever work in any function. It's not realistic. It's anti-pragmatic. It's not even something we can even debate, really, in my opinion. But I think proportional allocation of electoral votes would make sense.
All right, thank you. Then now we're going to hit CTV. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I think that specifically that anybody that thinks of getting rid of the Electoral College, again, is just trying to cut at the very bedrock of the fucking nation, right? Much like the last argument, right? So, like, at what point is the United States the United States? So anybody that thinks that the Electoral College needs to be dismantled or be gone away with, one, doesn't understand how it fucking works, right? So when we get into the argument, if anybody here doesn't understand, I'll be more than happy to explain to you how it works, right? That being said, right, if you don't like the Electoral College because it's a bedrock of the United States, I hear communist China is taking people. Go have fun, right? Because I don't want to inhibit your freedom, right? So feel free. Now you get over there, they might want to inhibit your freedom, but you know, we're over here. What we're about over here is the representation of the people across the several states that make up the United States. Now, the only other thing that is left on my mind, right, is what do you have when 100 lawyers are buried up to their necks in sand? Not enough sand.
CTV, could you just like for the purpose of the audience and for the other panelists, could you like just do like brief description of the Electoral College for the people listening, just so?
Sure. Okay. So the House of Representatives, right, or the census. The census. We'll start with the census, right? So the census gets taken every 10 years, right? And then by the census, we decide how many the states are going to get how many House representatives, right? So you take the number of House representatives plus the 2 senators that they get, and that constitutes, in short, the Electoral College. So if you have, say, 13 representatives of a state for the House, and then you have 2 for the Senate, there's your Electoral College vote. And that's how every single year, like that's why, you know, Florida has X number of electoral votes. North Carolina has X number. California has X number, right? It has to do with the census, right? And the census is when the government sends out that paperwork every 10 years and says, hey, are you here? Blah, blah, blah. These are the number of people that we have in the country. We want to make sure that we're representing these people. There is the very basic idea that is in the framework of our Constitution that decides how many district representatives that a state is going to have in the House, plus the 2 senators that you get, and there's your electoral vote.
Thank you, CTV. I know you just said, I just want to ask because you said you're going to explain it to people later, so I just figured like having everyone on the same page at the beginning would like avoid any like potential like dunks and definitions like slow down the conversation. But thank you for that brief and awesome description of that. Pisco, 90 seconds on the clock. Go ahead.
Sure. I think a lot of CTV's argumentation about democracy in China were pretty conclusory and not very helpful in terms of explaining why getting rid of the Electoral College would make us like communist China. So I'm looking to see more meat there. I am in favor of abolishing the Electoral College and transitioning to a national popular vote. I am against proportionate districting votes and doing things like they do in Maine and Nebraska, specifically because, one, I don't want districts and the districting of different states to become another issue. We already know the Supreme Court has approved of partisan gerrymandering with respect to congressional elections, and I don't want to revisit gerrymandering with respect to presidential elections. And so I would totally be against any kind of proportionate voting by the states. Every person's vote should contribute equally to the election of the president who represents the national interest. And I think states have plenty of sovereignty if we're going to maintain the Senate the way it is. And if we're going to allow them to have their own sovereignty and spheres of influence, states have enough authority. And it's about time that our democracy be truly representative and where people's votes are equal in this country. And so I do not want to give Rhode Island and Wyoming outsized influence on our national politics in the presidential election.
Thank you, Pisco. All right, we're going to go to Connor. So go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, I was actually my compromise would be Jolah's solution. I thought that was fucking brilliant. You don't have to go to the direct vote. You still get more basically popular representation. Republican states, small Republican states actually start mattering. Their districts start mattering. So if Republicans want to win them, they actually have to cater to their interests. I think that's a brilliant fucking compromise. The reason why I'm okay with the status quo, the reason why I'm okay with things as they are, is because this is the way that it was structured intentionally in the past for balance of power purposes. And on top of that, I think it was kind of the rural Chad versus the virgin city dweller fucking memes where you have like you got like thousands of fucking Coomers like Hans fucking stacked up on each other and fucking 500
What's up?
Yeah, 500 fucking square foot apartments. They're all just banging each other's fucking brains out and fucking going to Starbucks and fucking eating hot chips and lying and shit. Meanwhile, the fucking Chad, Indiana folks are out there fucking tilling corn and shit. There is a moral difference between these people. Hans Farkir is a fucking degenerate as much as I love him, and his vote should count less.
I am a degenerate. All right, so we're gonna throw it to Spectre, and so right now the list we were supposed to wait to start till it was Spectre's time to talk, but
sorry.
it's totally okay. But for this case, we have Jolah going first because he got carried over from the last conversation, so he gets the first word in after everyone finishes. Then we go to Pisco, then Spectre, and then everyone else. Please start raising your hands because this is going to be like 3 things of lefty. So if you don't want, although in this case, like Jolah and Pisco disagree, so there's going to be some conversation here. So Spectre, take it away. 90 seconds on the clock, and then we're going to go to Jolah. So go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, pleasantly surprised that Pisco, agrees with like the take here that we should probably just get rid of the Electoral College altogether.
Speak up there, kiddo.
Yeah, sorry.
I heard it.
We should probably just get rid of the Electoral College altogether. Instituting a popular vote, I don't understand how that's not doable. I think that we have the technology. We can probably pull that off. Yeah. That being said, despite the concerns that I would have of like the basically gerrymandering that would happen with the proportional vote, just due to the fact that I'm assuming that would probably fall to state governments, which are mostly controlled by Republicans, which would gerrymander the fuck out of like these proportion districts. I would still take that over what we have now, which is absolutely absurd. Because it's only ever favored Republicans in the couple of times that it has gone against the popular vote. And it seems to, just really set us back economically and socially every 4 to 8 years or so nowadays.
All right. Thank you, Spectre. So we're going to throw it to Jolah. And the current list is Jolah, Pisco, Spectre, Samantha, and then CTV. I assume you're raising your hand. It might just be you're just taking a smoke. So Jolah, take it away, buddy.
So the reason I'm for a proportional system of the Electoral College, as it is right now, over the current one, of course, is obvious. If California goes 1 vote to Democrats, Democrats should not get every single electoral vote from that state. Politicians should have to appeal to every single voter in a state. But the reason I would prefer proportional a proportional electoral college versus like a popular vote is because of how our elections are carried out. Our decentralized system carried out at the local level set by state standards. If something like a recount has to happen, if we have to come to a conclusion like something that happened in 2000, I think it'd be more difficult if we just had a straight popular vote throughout the entire country. Where would we do recounts at? Would we do a national recount every time we had an issue? But I mean, practically, would that even come into play? I don't know. Pragmatically, when it comes to arguing for a solution, like Connor said, I am proposing basically the compromise position. When it comes to outcomes, I wouldn't have a problem with what Pisco or Spectre want today, because I know the votes are 8 million in favor of my side. So ideally, of course, that'd be fine. But right now, this is what I would propose.
All right, thank you, Jolah. We're gonna go to Pisco and Spectre. I assume they're gonna have some contention with that, and then we're gonna go to Samantha and CTV. So, Pisco, go ahead.
Yeah, on the question of whether or not a proportional system would ameliorate a lot of the problems, maybe it would, but I think it doesn't ameliorate some of the central concerns. One is it's still, you're not voting directly for president, and there's this intermediary in that you have these delegates, right? These not direct, you're not really voting for the president with your vote, and so there can be faithless electors, and that to me is troubling. The fact that it exists is troubling. Second, addressing more Connor's point about, well, we want to have some balancing between the Chad rural people and the beta, whatever, city folk. The Electoral College doesn't do that. The Electoral College doesn't say, okay, you're part of this demographic, we're going to favor you. It favors small states. So if you're a rural voter in Texas who might have very different interests than rural voters in other parts, in, say, California, maybe they have very different interests. It doesn't favor you by virtue of being rural. By the way, I don't agree with you at base that it should favor rural voters, but even if that's what you wanted, it's not doing that. It's favoring small states. On the other issues that Jolah raised, one was problems of recount. This would not be a problem. You could still have state-run elections. You could still have very federalized, I mean state, local control over elections. And so recounts could be narrowed into where the districts are or where the states are that are running the elections in a particular way. You wouldn't have to take away state election authority from the states. And finally, pragmatically, I disagree. I think your take is less pragmatic than a national popular vote because at least national popular vote, there's a push now for the interstate vote compact, which would give it the electoral. It would still use the Electoral College, but it would give it to the winner of the national popular vote, and that seems to have much more legs than passing proportional voting statutes in every state. So pragmatically, I think we're in a better position.
All right, Jolah, would you like to respond to that before we throw it to Spectre?
I don't wholly disagree with what you said about the last point. Of course, the interstate voter compact is the most realistic thing right now, although I think it's not that realistic. That is definitely the closest we are going to get. What do you think about the prospect of, do you think, or do you even like care about like third parties ever being viable electorally countrywide? Because I feel like if we had a system where we had proportional votes, you still need 270 to win. Let's say, for example, and I'm not proposing like my direct claim here. I want to hear what you think. But let's say, for example, I don't know, the Green Party or the Libertarian Party won 5% of the total vote, and they got like a couple electoral college votes in this proportional system. And now Democrats and Republicans need to make concessions to these third parties in order to get themselves over to that 270 mark. I think that's an interesting dynamic to propose if somebody is like in favor of third parties having some influence in American politics. I don't know what anybody else would think about that, though.
I think the problem there is not changes from the Electoral College and national popular vote. I think the problem there is first past the post, which exists throughout these voting systems we're talking about. So I think arguably even more important than Electoral College is changing from first past the post to be either runoff elections or proportional or ranked choice voting. That's what I meant, not proportional. So where you list off candidates and you have some kind of algorithm that places them and redoes things. So I think that the national popular vote doesn't address the issues of third parties, because what we need to do is change first past the post.
All right, thank you, Pisco. We're gonna throw it to Spectre, then Samantha, then CTV. So Spectre, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would agree with Pisco that like if you want to make third parties viable, you should probably look at first past the post more so than anything to do with the Electoral College. I don't actually see how making it proportional would help any more than just instituting a national popular vote. I think both those could help third parties, but the way that that's structured isn't what's hurting third parties the most in the country right now. Yeah, I just think it makes more sense to do a popular vote, like ethically. I think who's president affects everybody equally. It doesn't affect people in Rhode Island more than it affects people in California. There's no reason that they should get like 4 times the voting power. If this person is going to be like the head of the executive branch of our federal government, everybody should just have an equal say on who that gets to be. We have the technology to do this. The Electoral college is an antiquated thing. Like it's a dumb old concept that we did out of necessity. We don't have to do it at this point.
All right. Thank you, Spectre. So we're on Samantha, then CTV, and then Connor. So Samantha, go ahead.
Pisco and Spectre kind of hit the nail on the head for me. As someone who prefers like the third party stuff, that we wouldn't have any real use for the Electoral College if we went to something, say, like ranked choice voting, or that would pretty much be a popular vote, but with that ranked choice system. And I think that would be more beneficial than just doing away with the Electoral College, because then we'd still be stuck in like a dominant two-party system with very little access to help for third parties.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Samantha. We're gonna Peace goes how to use the bathroom real quick. We're gonna throw it to CTV.
Look, folks, I hope that you were listening to Pisco very, very intently, because the exact same argument that he gave as justification for the popular vote is the exact same justification that was given for the Senate and the 17th Amendment, right? So everything that I've already said previous to this conversation still holds true, right? The reality is that in our Constitution, it has specifically the census in order to find out what the population of the people is, so that there can be a representative for those people, right? Now, that being said, why is that important when it comes to the federal election? When was the last time there was a faithless elector? When, Pisco? I know you got an answer.
2016.
Before that?
I think it's happened. It's happened many times in history. I don't know before 2016.
Okay, so it happens so often that Pisco can only quote 2016. That's how often it happens, right? That being said, too, it brings us back to the philosophical consistency that was the Constitution at its founding, right? Is that there needs to be representation of the states and the people, because the states themselves, right, have their interests with regard to what's happening locally, because the state legislatures are trying to create, say, I don't know, an environment that creates good business practices and it encourages manufacturing to come to their states, that they might want to get some type of representation at the federal level. But if it's a direct vote by the people, then you say that these senators, right, or in this case, the president, would have a vested interest in interacting with the people, but in with these governments. But the reality is that they don't, right? All they have to do is say, at the barest of minimums, I don't know, become a Twitch politics personality and then become so popular that everybody knows their name, and then they'll get elected president. And then we end up in the age of idiocracy, right? So if you're all fucking ready for that movie Idiocracy to come to fruition, keep up with these dumbass ideas that keep moving further and further away from the Constitution that is, in fact, the longest running form of government history. 244 years our Constitution has been here, or actually 233 years our Constitution has been here, 244 since the Declaration of Independence. So, I don't know. Over 200 years of history speaks to the truth that has been the Constitution, and what I'm always advocating for is a return to the original truth instead of this compromising along the way. Fuck the compromise. This is the bedrock principle. The census is conducted. There are House representatives and the senators constitute the electoral vote, and then you elect the president. It's in the Constitution. That's what makes America.
Just to clarify, According to the search, there has been one faithless elector in each of the following elections: 1948, 1956, 1960, 1968, 1972, 1976, and 1998. Or sorry, 1988. A blank ballot was cast in 2000. And in 2016, 7 electors broke with their state on the presidential ballot, and 6 did so on the vice presidential ballot.
Mhm. And the
And
last
of how
time,
many of these?
sorry, and the last time where it seemed like it was like a super extremely relevant issue was there was 30 in the 1832 election. There was
Wait a minute. Are you
23.
moderating or are you participating?
I'm just
He's providing information. You asked the
I-
Oh
question.
Jesus.
like CTV. This actually supports your point, but like I
Okay,
was
go ahead.
Yeah, it
like-
does.
like so as like CTV said, with the exception of like 10 people in 2016, like every election in say the essentially the 1900s was only like one faithless elector. Like during an election the last time when there was a like double digit amount was 30 in 1832, 23 in 1836, 63 in 1872, 27 in 1896. So that was just for the people on the panel because like there was a direct question about like a specific knowledge thing. I wasn't jumping in like to support anyone's debate performance, although in this particular one will support CTV's point about like the faithless elector is not really happening. So now we are going to throw it to Connor. So, and I would appreciate next time again, like I'm being as unbiased as possible. That was specifically because if no one knows like the facts of like whether or not like faithless electors are a thing, we can't really have this conversation. I didn't want to leave it hanging. So Connor, go ahead, buddy.
Get out of here, Hans.
Like-
I'm kidding.
Fuck me, right? Like the one time they're like, someone asked a question and no one knew what the answer was, and I was like,
Get the
I
fuck
guess I
out of
should-
here!
Like,
Get the fuck out of here, you apron
I
wearing.
did know the answer. When was the last faithless elector? I didn't know that answer, but then he asked another one, which I didn't know.
all right,
Get out of
Go-
here, you.
go ahead, Connor.
Apron,
Shut the fuck up. Keep talking. All right, fine.
you apron wearing himbo.
I'm gonna get the apron. I'm getting it right now.
Connor,
All
no,
right,
I think there's some real hate right now, Connor. Right? Look, I look at Hans's chest, right, and I'm aware of his Twitter feed, and like the fact that dude can. What was it? Was it 245 or 295? Which one was it?
my single max bench right now is 315. I did a set of 285
That's
for a triple
How
yesterday.
tall are you?
I'm 6'3", like 245. I'm a pretty big guy, so like it's not like as impressive as like if I was like a tinier dude, but like
That's still
I'm
good.
pretty
It's
strong.
hard.
Yeah.
A manlet. A
Hey,
Nah,
manlet.
the fucking
Thanks, chat. Like
the tiny dudes have an advantage. They got less room to push. All right.
true, so true. I'm gonna go switch to my apron. It's Connor's turn to talk. If I hear anyone interrupts him, I will be very disappointed in every single one.
Manlet.
All right. So yeah. So I kind of wanted to speak to chat almost.
I'm
for a
interrupting
second.
just on principle.
All right, that's fair. So I wanted to kind of talk to Republicans in chat or libertarians in chat. Oftentimes they get really discouraged because they hear like liberals and progressives just like viscerally hating the Electoral College. And as a result, it just seems like, I don't know, in a century, it's going to go away if trends continue. But something was actually brought up by somebody, Liberty Sanity Project. And he basically said, like, well, it's not entirely bad if these things go away, because what will happen is the Republican Party isn't going to fucking disappear. What's going to happen is they actually have to listen to their constituents. They have to build a popular platform. They have to understand their base and go after them. And I thought that was incredibly interesting because I think there's a pretty large appetite, especially if you look at like Central American and South American immigration to the United States. There's probably a pretty large appetite for like mild economic redistributivism mixed with mild social progressivism. So you could basically take like a pretty centrist, but also way more conservative than the left is right now, and then beat them to fucking death with their own popular vote. So I don't want anybody to get fucking blackpilled here. I think conservatism and libertarianism, even in a post-popular vote world, has a viable future.
Thank you, Connor. We're gonna throw it to Spectre.
Right. So regarding faithless electors, I don't think that that's anybody's contention with the Electoral College. The contention is the fact that we can have 2 times, like in my lifetime, which I'm 26, dude, that the president has lost the popular vote and yet won via the Electoral College. the fucking issue with that is that if it actually worked the way that you're implying via the census and distributed the votes proportionally, this wouldn't be an issue. This would not be the case. This wouldn't be a problem. Nobody would be complaining. But obviously, it's actually not getting distributed proportionally, and it's definitely not getting distributed proportionally with senators either, which is a whole other conversation. Like the bare minimum that we could do to make things more democratic at the federal level is to get rid of the Electoral College, make it more proportional, as Jolah was suggesting, and then maybe eventually talk about adding more senators, the same way that Pisco wants to do it judges for whatever reason. I don't know.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Spectre. I didn't say awesome like that after his points. I wasn't like agreeing with him. Just like to clarify.
Totally. Yeah.
Shut up, Connor. I swear to God. Like, all right, Pisco is the last one on the list right now. If anyone else wants to jump in, start raising your hands. We have 15 to 20 minutes left for this topic before we finish for the evening. See you, Jolah. You can put your hand down. All right, Pisco, take it away.
Yeah, first I just want to say, Hans, this has been the best moderated debate that I've had.
You're goddamn right.
And I'm not just saying it's the most smoke. I am actually serious that this has been by far the best that I've ever been on. Okay, on the actual merits, first of all, on CTV's point about an idiocracy turning over because of a direct popular vote, that's pretty much what we had in 2016, and it wasn't because of the national popular vote. We had a dumb celebrity giving dumb ideas, and he was elected because of the Electoral College. On the question of, well, shouldn't we give more voice to the rural voters? I still want to hear a response from Connor Points. There's nothing about the Electoral College that says that rural voters de facto get more say. It says small states get more say. And are you okay with that reality where rural voters in big population states are not getting benefited from this disproportionate voice that small states are getting? And then on the faithless electors point, I just want to say, it's not ever affected anything. It's not ever been like a danger of faithless electors overturning the election. But on principle, the fact that it could happen is totally not a thing that should be allowed. Like it is insulting to me that this group of insiders could one day decide the fate of a presidential election rather than the voters. So on that principled basis, on that danger, I would be against it, even though it's never really been a danger in our recent history or past history.
All right, that was directly addressed to Connor. So Connor, please feel free to respond. And then we go Jolah, CTV, and then Connor for the list. So.
Yeah, okay. So just like I morally impugned people from urban centers in general versus rural people, I will also morally impugn West Coasters versus East Coasters. I think that the further you go west, the bigger the states get. The reason why is because basically laziness. West Coasters got out there, they saw more territory, they just wanted to carve it all out for themselves. They were like, I'm going to make a state the size of half of Europe, and we're going to call it Texas. And I'm going to make a second state the size of Europe, and it's going to be called California. And that just shows you the fucking inferiority of Western versus Eastern. So yes, New Jersey people, Rhode Islanders, all crammed into their fucking Coomer apartments right next to Hans Vark here. So if you're looking for like moral superiority, inferiority, first it goes like rural versus urban, and then it goes East Coast versus West Coast.
Wait, Hans, I just want to appeal to you. I don't think he was responsive because California and Texas are two of the states that get screwed the most out of the Electoral College. And so if he's given a superiority, then he should be even more against the Electoral College. Especially rural voters in those places are not getting treated well compared to rural voters in small states.
I was going to say, damn, Connor,
I just said New Jersey's better than California. What do you want from me? What's that?
No, you said the opposite. You said California's better than New Jersey.
No, I didn't. I said West Coasters were a bunch of lazy fucking cunts who carved out vast swaths of territory.
Oh my God, Connor, we get it. You hate the West. Go join ISIS. They do too. Okay, shut the fuck up.
Well, can I have a real argument instead of memes?
The specific question was
sure.
Pisco, let me know if I phrase this incorrectly. This is for Connor for CTV. Anyone wants to answer this? Was regardless of like whether it's Western, Eastern, it's the larger states that get like the hurt most of this. Whether it's Texas, whether it's Florida, whether it's kind of like that means like red states and blue states. So what's the argument for like say supporting small states in this specific regard? Connor, do you want to take this or CTV?
Rural voters.
No, I'll take. I'll take it, and I won't meme about it. Here's the reality of it. I don't like or these aren't good reasons. They're just reasons. Okay. So I don't like or trust the average person. I don't like popular voting. I think that it's really easy to fucking promise people the fucking world. And as much as so basically, like if I run for president and I say, hey, free ice cream for fucking everybody, all that kind of shit, and I get fucking 60% of the fucking vote, it's just fucking elementary school fucking politics, right? So I hate that shit. And then fucking number two, in reference to that, while it might not be the case right now, or we can highlight the hyper negative examples. I think our representatives should be the best among us. They should be people who are higher educated, higher skilled, all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, fucking blah. And so basically, I am okay with representative democracy in theory because I literally don't like or trust most people. So it's politically convenient for me. It's politically convenient for my fucking political sympathies. It's part of the reason why I'm memeing is because one, I don't think any of this shit is going to fucking change anytime in the next century. So I think it's kind of more of like like a philosophical argument. And then fucking two, I think that the philosophical arguments across the aisle are very strong. They just don't match my personal taste. And I'll admit that out loud.
Like, I'd be fine with more representation for rural California. There is a lot of conservatives out here. But if you take the population of rural conservatives in California and compare it to the larger, I'm going to say just liberal, giant cities, San Francisco, LA, Sacramento, where you have a large blue population, still representation based on population, California is still going to go majority to blue, as we all know. And same with all these larger metropolitan cities, New York, even Texas now is getting to the point where so many people have left California to go make Texas fucking purple for the time being. And that's going to swap real quick with Austin becoming San Francisco Part 2.
Yeah, fucking asshole.
More and more and it's getting to the point where so you have to look, statistically large metropolitan areas, urban centers, whatever you want to call them, right, are majority blue, where these rural areas majority red. But you have that population density in those metropolitan areas. So still statistically, I mean, I'm fine with 1 or 2 electoral votes if we have to keep this stupid system from California going to the conservative base that's in rural counties, but it's really not going to make that much of a dent.
Well, and I want to address this before anybody else addresses this. So the reason why I like Jolah's compromise solution so much is because I think Pisco is right, and this is something that came up in a previous debate that I thought was really strong, is that Republicans don't have to win red states. They don't have to. They can completely ignore the hollowing out of the Rust Belt. They can completely ignore the rural states in the Midwest. They can completely ignore rural Californians because they know that those votes are already tallied in their favor and they're coasting on that fact. So if you did go with Jolah's compromise solution in which you divvied up districts and there were districts that were going to be red and blue, you could basically say, nah, you want my fucking electoral vote, you're gonna have to fucking earn it. So
Sorry, I have to jump in here.
Wait. Quick question. What was the question? Go
What was
ahead.
my question?
Yeah.
So, this is my question. Essentially, you're complaining about politicians ignoring places, but the Electoral College focuses people to only focus on swing states. So, where are we really in the most danger of politicians unjustifiably ignoring places?
Right.
Well, when it comes,
Connor, just think on that. Jolah and CTV have been waiting a pretty long time. So let's go to them, and then your third on the list right now. It's Jolah, CTV, Connor, Spectre, and then Pisco again. So we're gonna get those two to talk, and then you can respond to Pisco's question. So
okay,
Jolah, go ahead.
Just the realism of today. Obviously, nothing is going to get done, but state by state wise, I think these solutions can be pretty interesting. We know that one district in Nebraska, right? That one, where Big D's from, Omaha. They have a separate way that they allocate their electoral votes. We can try fun things out at the state level, push for the interstate compact, and get people really. One of my biggest issues here is I want to get people caring more about more class-based issues instead of cultural issues. So that's another big reason I don't like the Electoral College, because a lot of the reason that Trump can win is because of the foundation of our country and our roots in the dog whistles Trump made worked in rural America for a reason. These areas are 99% white. Trump could just rely on cultural issues to get these white states that are very, very small. Every black vote is also less because of the Electoral College. I think getting rid of the Electoral College in general would focus things more on real issues, because one demagogue can't sweep through with a message based on division, divide, and conquer as easily as they can right now, just focusing on the lowest common denominator. So just getting rid of the Electoral College, that's another argument.
All right, thank you, Jolah. We're gonna throw it to CTV, and then Connor can respond to Pisco.
I am so glad that I get to go after Joel. And note that he pointed out race. That's one of those things that is a filter of his that he chooses to see the world through, right? Which I, frankly, don't care what's between your legs or what color your skin is. Frankly, when it comes to any participation with the fucking government, and neither should anybody else. Shouldn't, right? The government is set up for all people, regardless of what's between your legs or which color your skin is. Now, back to the issue of the Electoral College. I think it's, how shall we say, inherently problematic, right? Is that very people that would be arguing for the change of the system are the people that also believe at the same time it's flyover states shouldn't fucking matter, which is why I've been hearing arguments about the East Coast and the West Coast, but fuck the flyover states, right? So their argument breaks down like this. Well, there's not as many people living there. Why should they have an equal say? It's because they're a fucking state. That's why we bother with the census. That's why we bother doing this thing to set up this number of House representatives is what you get, plus your 2 senators equals the Electoral College. It literally is that simple. Any attempt on the left to try to complicate it is only to try to appeal to your goodwill. And frankly, whenever they use terms like, oh, white people, right? But I know you're looking at me, you want to say white people when you look at me, but the reality is that, son, I'm part Cherokee, right? I'll come swing the tomahawk, slap you upside the head with it, right? That said, the people, the census, representatives, senators equals electors. Couldn't get more simple than that. Trying to complicate it in order to make some other fucking argument is only your attempt to appeal to people's goodwill, and that's all it is.
All right, thank you, CTV. We're gonna throw it to Connor, and then Spectre. And
Wait, I
then
need to
Pisco.
respond.
Oh, sorry, Jolah, if you want to respond, please, yeah, go ahead.
So,
And then we'll
being
go-
from a rural part of America, 99% white, I have ran through this voter data many, many times because I want people to focus on real issues, not like, I don't want people to be focused on being afraid of other races or anything. But the fact is that a majority of Trump supporters, you might not be in this category, I don't think you are, but a majority of Trump
I
supporters.
supported Trump and voted for Trump in 2020,
No,
just
a
so we're
majority,
fucking clear.
No, I know you did support him, but a majority of Trump supporters are afraid that they're being culturally displaced. A majority of Trump supporters think white people are more discriminated against in America today than like black people. So this is a true cultural issue that is happening. But when it comes to states being like separated from the rest of
that argument goes to the drug war.
When it comes to states, and should
please let him finish, CTV.
Should
you can
states
respond after.
Should states be given more say as states? Would you say that states that take a big deficit and that we have to bail out federally shouldn't be given a say because they can't be self-sustainable? Should California and New York just own the entire country because they're states that have more economic production? Because all these flyover states aren't producing shit, and the only way they're gonna ever produce again is if they actually start focusing on real issues, and they are not right now. I wish they were, but.
CTV, you're welcome to respond. Then we can throw it to Connor.
Thank you, Jolah, for coming over to my side on this argument. I expect to see you on the Conservative Midday stream that happens from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. so that we can further clarify your arguments.
All right. Other plugs aside, we're gonna throw it to Connor.
All right. So, fuck. Okay. So, I want to address the aren't producing shit issue, and also like the drain issue. Oftentimes the states that we're talking about that are flyover are breadbasket states. Oftentimes when we're talking about the states that are producing a lot economically, a lot of their production is in intangibles or odd things like technology, finance, all that kind of stuff. So obviously, like 1,000 acres of fucking corn is going to be worth less than, I don't know, the financial industry of fucking New York. So that's where this kind of like my elitism, my mock elitism about rural people being morally superior to fucking city dwellers is actually, it's just an inversion of basically what's going on with fucking city folk, where they think everybody who lives outside of the fucking city is a goddamn dumb fuck and they're not worth a fucking shit. So yeah, that's kind of where that comes from. Just to cut to Pisco's point about the basically shifting to popular vote, or the concerns with the fucking popular vote, is just talking about like rural urban fucking representation and all that kind of shit. I don't think there would be, if we go to a purely popular vote system, I don't think there's going to be a fucking rural representation for the remainder of history. I don't think anybody's going to fucking give a shit, because if there's more cows than fucking people, who gives a fuck about those people? Just play to the major cities, play to major city problems, play to major city fucking politics, because that's the only thing that people are going to give a fuck about, because everybody's going to be a fucking urbanite. So I don't know. I don't see how your solution is any better at addressing these issues than the status quo.
All right, you're welcome to respond. Then we're gonna go to Spectre. Actually, Pisco, I'll just put you in front of Spectre for this. Respond, and then Spectre, and then Samantha, and then we are going into 2-minute closing statements, which will be like both like your ending thoughts on this and your outros. So, Pisco, go ahead.
Yeah, happy to do that. So one, Connor, I disagree that we should be favoring rural voters over urban voters over any other kind of voters. I have problems in saying that one demographic of people, by virtue of where they live or what they do, should be favored over another. So I disagree with you on that base. But I also disagree that the Electoral College is doing what you think it's doing. It's not favoring rural voters. It's favoring small states. And my evidence of that is the fact that a lot of states that are super disadvantaged, California, Texas, right? Those are states that have way more rural voters there than in places like Wyoming, way more. And they're not getting the benefits of this Electoral College and more representation. They're just not. On the question of, well, they're just going to appeal to city interest. Well, at bottom, right, I think that if there's more people in the cities, government should be responsive to people. But even if I didn't believe that and agreed that rural people should have more say than city people, that's not what the Electoral College is doing either. What the Electoral College is doing is preferencing politicians paying attention in swing states. That's it. It's not helping rural people. It's helping people in swing states. In Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida, Iowa, those are the places that are going to benefit by virtue of their distribution and partisanship, not because of these demographic characteristics that we shouldn't even prime. But even if you wanted to prime, it's not doing that.
All right. So right now we have just like Spectre and then Samantha, and then we have 2 minutes left. We'll put CTV at the end of that, and then we'll start closing statements. No one else raise their hand because we're getting close to the 3-hour mark, and we gotta finish this at some point. Other times I've had a 4.5-hour panel. Respecting the guests' time this time, we're trying to keep it under 3. So, Spectre, Samantha, and then CTV. So, Spectre, go ahead, buddy.
Right. So first, I reject the premise that like urban issues don't affect rural people. They absolutely do. This also goes back to kind of your mind-bogglingly terrible take that like the West Coast and bigger states are somehow worse. Like California, it has like the 6th largest GDP if it's its own country. It gets 78 cents back for every dollar of federal tax that it pays out of like.
So why did you flee it, buddy?
Because like the housing market is controlled by like real estate speculators, and so is the state and city governments, which is a whole other thing that has nothing to do with what we're talking
Federal.
about right now.
Yeah.
But it's like the economic powerhouse that's subsidizing like the shitty degenerate red states like Kentucky that like won't do basic shit like accept federal grant money for like healthcare and whatnot. Yeah. Like unironically, that's what it is. So like you can shit on these people, but they're subsidizing your morally superior rural lifestyle. So the least that you can do is allow them to have proportional representation in the presidential election by just, either doing a popular vote or something a little bit more to the left probably of what Joe was suggesting. But if we can just make it proportional and limit any effect that gerrymandering or a similar system would have on it, I'd be fine with that too.
All right. We're going to throw it to Samantha and then CTV and then closing statement. So Samantha, go ahead.
I just wanted to address it since we're on representation and voting, without having to jump down my grandma's a Cherokee princess arc. So rural representation, Steve, you brought up a good point with the whole native thing. Is right now there's an entire demographic of people, and this is more of like a shout out and a point that needs to be spoken about because a lot of people don't know, is representation with in regards to like natives being able to vote. Since native reservations technically aren't on U.S. soil and you cannot be registered to vote using like a P.O. box, they don't allow some tribes to vote, which is complete horseshit and fucked up. So you're losing out on another minority demographic that could be able to vote for your liberal, progressive, democratic bullshit issues like banning guns. But yeah, I just needed to say that since CTV reminded me of that.
Thank you, Samantha. All right, CTV, last word before closer. So go ahead.
Well, I really hate doing this to Pisco, but because he keeps pointing out, and this is like the third fucking time he's pointed out, as Pisco's founder's founder, right? And what that means is the very first motherfucker that subscribed to his channel, right? Because I know that Pisco is a very, very eloquent arguer, right? That said, when he says smaller states, notice how he pointed out Wyoming is the example. Last time I checked, Wyoming is a pretty sizable fucking state. What is this? It's the disingenuous language that gets used on the left, right? And because of that, everybody else that was listening assumed that he was referring to the Northeast, myself included. If you listen to my earlier arguments, right, you would have assumed, just like I did, that he was talking about Vermont, New Hampshire, fucking Maine, all of these states that came to fruition because of what? The Civil fucking War, right? So if you want to get away from the past slave history, right, and then start, maybe consolidating the states to reduce the number of senators that are there in that concentration of power, right, that you're referring to in this country, especially with regard to the Senate, then perhaps maybe we start to get away from the power struggle that you're talking about. But trying to disenfranchise states that have a lesser population because they are occupied by the very fucking thing that you would love to eat, which is what? Motherfucking steak, right? Steak is fucking great, and if you like steak, you better like your motherfucking flyover states because that's where the cows are. Right? So if you like to eat steak, you better be in support of your fucking flyover states because it takes very few people to actually fucking I say grow, right? But it's not really grow, right? What's the right word?
Ranch.
Ranch fucking cows. Thanks, Connor. Right? So ranch fucking cows, right? And bring the fucking steak to your plate. Support your flyover states because the few people that are there are doing the very thing that you would want them to do, which is put a fucking tasty ass steak on your motherfucking plate.
Are you saying we assign electoral votes to patches of fucking dirt in Wyoming?
Yeah, because those patches of dirt have the steak on it. Hold on. And fucking Pisco's fucking urban dwelling ass wants you to fucking eat the bugs, all right? Pisco is pro fucking bug eating and he's anti steak. We won the debate.
Motherfucking Hakuna Matata. It's a
Everybody on this
wonderful
panel,
phrase.
they are all liberals. None of them should be taken fucking seriously at all. They're
Like
all fucking
obligatory
mad
Hans
libs.
yelling moment of the evening. Shut the fuck up. We're going to closing statements. So, all right. So we're gonna start with Connor, then into Spectre, then to CTV, then Pete. Connor, Spectre, CTV. Oh wait, shit, I fucked up. No, Spectre, Connor.
Put your glasses back on.
I can't see. You all look so similar. A lot of white.
That's
Anyway,
racist.
That's race eraser. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna go from Spectre to Connor to Pisco to CTV to Jolah, and Samantha's finishing us up. So 2 minutes on the clock. Ending arguments, anything you want to plug, all that sort of shit. Spectre, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that thankfully, we're part of a service-based global economy. I'm gonna Postmates myself a Wagyu state right now. Fuck your flyover states. Fuck Nebraska. I don't need your fucking cows. Like Japanese, they make better cows. Okay, we can get that now. You should move somewhere like where people are civilized.
Where are you at now? Where are you at now?
Austin.
Oh, this is you're in Austin, right? So you're in Texas, right?
Previously
so
from
you were-
Cali.
You're
Please.
in hold on. It's pertinent. If you were in California before that, you should have stayed your ass in California.
You.
They would have been much easier to get this Japanese fucking steak on the West Coast than it would be in Texas, sir.
Look who's
It's
interrupting now.
easy
Damn.
everywhere that there's like a large urban center because they're fucking based, and these people deserve to have an equal say in who's the president. Is like the fucking people out with the cows and shit. The land shouldn't vote. This is absurd. I don't care how big Wyoming is. Nobody lives there because it sucks. Like, sorry. Anyway, I'm Spectre. I'll start streaming again when I have equipment out here. Like, I'll go ahead and put my channel in the Twitch chat. Yeah, abolish the Electoral College based.
Thank you so much, Spectre. I have server muted everyone because no one could behave. So now we're going to Connor. So, Connor, go ahead. Uninterrupted 2 minutes. You're welcome to make any expressions you want and maul as hard as you want in various chats, but no words. So, go, Connor.
Yeah, so if it seemed like I had a weak showing on this subject, I think it's because the one person, one vote argument probably has like a strong moral basis. I'm appealing to historical and Republican right-wing pragmatic arguments in order to further the argument. They're not that strong from like a moral philosophical basis. I do think the thing that makes me most nervous about direct democracy or more direct democracy in our system is I do think that urbanites don't understand or respect logistics systems. I don't think they know or understand or respect how the sausage gets made literally or metaphorically. So I think that they don't give a fuck about people outside of people who live their, live their lifestyle. And I think that oftentimes when you look at liberal or progressive policies, they're often incredibly well-intended and often incredibly logistically unfeasible. I don't want those people in charge of the country. I think they're a pain in my balls and they can metaphorically suck them. Yeah, that's it. So if you want to follow me at all, you can jump onto YouTube, type in Counterpoints, common spelling. You can find me there. We're about to break 7,000 subs, so I'm pretty excited about that. And then also you can find me on Twitter at Counterpoints, CONORPOINTS, CONORPOINTS. And Hans, I do want to compliment you. Normally Pisco and I, when we get on a panel show together, we just fucking scream at each other for like 3 hours straight.
So no.
Yeah, so the fact that you were able to keep us in check for fucking 3 hours is actually like a remarkable fucking feat.
Thank you. They said I couldn't do it. They were like, I don't even know if we can have more than just you two on. And I was like, you know what? I think I can do this. And lo and behold, the power. Anyway, thank you so much, Connor. Everyone, absolutely correct. If you want to learn more about sausages, Connor and I are both excellent at teaching you. Follow us for more sausage content. Pisco, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not even going to respond to what CTV said about Wyoming. I think it's pretty self-refuting in terms of that. I was referring to small population. I don't think that by virtue of producing food that you should get a disproportionate say on things. Just like I don't think people who produce computers and who help the internet are the people who should get a disproportionate say. What Connor Point said about liberals not knowing about logistical systems, I don't know what the hell that means. I'm sure a lot of different population groups in a lot of different places don't understand each other's issues or what they do for a living. I don't know why that's a basis to effectively disenfranchise wide swaths of people, or why you choose to prioritize one set of beliefs or one set of views or knowledge, namely knowledge over logistical systems. That's how you prioritize allocations of democracy. Cool. I mean, I don't think we should appeal to who's correct when we're talking about who should have the right to vote. We decide who's correct by voting, and we shouldn't maybe like, well, liberals are stupid, so we should take away their votes. That seems like a weird way to structure that. It's going to be working backwards in a way. Ultimately, I think that we should transition to a direct democracy for a direct election for the president. I think that proportional systems have a lot of other problems with it, but I prefer more delegation to the people with respect to who the president is, who has to focus on very national issues. I'll finish by saying I thought that Hans did an incredible job as a moderator. I'm not backing away from the fact that I think this has been the best run panel that I've been on. And that's including, again, I think I've been on like a lot of the main ones. And so really great props to you, and thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you so much for being with us. I muted myself. I really appreciate you coming on and bringing your legal expertise, even though lawyer's bad. All right, CTV, 2 minutes on the clock. Thank you so much for coming, buddy. Go Nets.
Yeah, well, it's obvious, right, Pisco, like you say, that you want representation for the state of Wyoming, right? But the reality is that, you know, you don't. Right? You just don't, right? You don't care about the states that are less populated because they have more of their land taken up by the very state that you would want on your fucking plate, right? Because there are more people located closer to the coast, which, where the fuck do you think ports are? Damn sure not in fucking Arkansas or Nebraska, right? Or Kansas. Those are landlocked states. That's not where the ports are, right? So when ports, right? Airports, seaports, right? These are where things come into the country. And where do you think you can move more goods? Through the air or over the sea? Well, fuck me. You might be able to run more over the sea, right? So you end up having ports next to the fucking ocean, right? So then your entire argument breaks down because you don't actually want an equal representation of the thoughts based off of population. What you want is a direct democracy, which is exactly what is antithetical to what the founders intended. And that right there is the crux of the whole fucking argument. Right now, as far as best panel that you've been on, look, let's be real for a second. Hans did a pretty good job. He did a pretty good job, right? No doubt. But let's be fair, right? The green screen in the background, right?
I'm getting it fixed.
Whoa! You asked for critique. You asked for critique at the
Samantha's
beginning.
making one right now. Like,
you critiqued it in the beginning, right? You asked for a critique, so I'm giving you one, right? So green screen in the background, right? Moderation was good. But in reality, honestly, Hans, I did feel like it was a little constrictive, right? Because like you need to be able to have more open dialogue between people instead of controlling it to the nth degree. That's where like pre-vetting people ahead of time for toxicity becomes important. And as your community grows, which I have no doubt that it will become much easier, and it will be much easier to know who the toxic personalities are and the way in which they're going to interact, who's being memey and who's just being ad hominem attacking simply for the sake of that because they don't actually have a substantive argument, right? So good job to you, Hans. Appreciate the invite. That all being said, folks, you can find me, because this is outros, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can find me on the Conservative Midday stream, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is where if you have some ideas that you want to be able to talk about, typically what I end up doing is sitting back worrying more about the feel of what happens during the midday and moderating conversation than I am about directing the conversation. So if you have something you want to talk about, feel free to come by. We have a lot of great conservatives over here for you to talk to and get to say, can exercise your mental muscles, right? That's a great way to put it, right? And rest assured that anybody that comes in does get treated with respect, and we make sure that the ideas are heard. Pisco himself can attest to that.
Yes,
right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I love my time on CTV panels.
Oh, my feelings were not hurt. I only wanted to speak truth. That being said, you can find me at twitch.tv/critically thinking veteran, or you can find me on Twitter, which from time to time I have been known to actually post myself in a Speedo for any men that are out there trying to see what excellence actually looks like, right?
More sausage learning. It's quite exceptional. Also, the CTV again, like just like specific, like thank you for coming on, like especially on short notice. Like we dropped another conservative that was supposed to be on the panel, and you really saved our bacon in terms of having a more balanced panel. And also CTV's chat, I've been watching you all night, and I see some of you saying, "Oh, like there's only one conservative on there." Well, you dumb fucks, if you want to get on my panels, I have plenty of spots for conservatives, and I promise to treat you as well as I've treated CTV tonight. And if you want more conservative voices,
if you start off the
I
conversation
would love
with
to have you.
But if you kind of start the conversation off with dumb fucks, that's not a good way to attract anybody to that. And I will speak on behalf of my chat when it comes to that, dumb fuck.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Sorry, I shouldn't have used dumb fuck. I should have used cowardly. So like anyway, I'm always happy to. I'm happy to have. I'm happy to have any of you.
Now we're about to have a Hans versus CTV where you get broken completely the fuck down.
Okay?
That's
Don't call him a coward. He's part Cherokee.
Like, okay, like that's fair. Like, I'm sorry that the Trail of Tears happened. Anyway, so Jolah, 2 minutes on the clock. Because like you'll notice, like I am 100% white, so like I can't claim any of that. So I'm really sorry for what my ancestors did to your people. So Jolah, 2 minutes on the clock. Go ahead.
The biggest issue with a lack of representation in rural America is rural voters not understanding their own issues. That's the biggest problem. Give urban voters credit. They vote based on policy issues. They understand what the problems are, even if they're wrong about solutions on housing and healthcare and all that stuff. At least they understand there is a problem. We've had this opioid epidemic ripping through rural America for the past 20 years, and nobody knows how to step up and do something about it. It's all focusing on bullshit cultural issues. 24/7 bullshit cultural issues. Oh no, Black Lives Matter is coming to kill me. Black Lives Matter is not coming to infiltrate your 99% white community in the middle of rural America in your coal town. Like, that isn't happening. And I challenge CTV to a debate on rural America. That will happen eventually. We will go 1v1, or I don't know. I'll do 1v10. I'll take on 10 conservative men at once.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday.
We'll talk about some rural issues. And you can find me at Jolah on YouTube and Twitter, JOLAH. Thank you, Hans. Of course, you already know. I think you're the best in the game, and you're gonna get your what do they call it? Accolades soon. Sure.
Thanks so much, Jolah. Thank you again for joining. I'd love to have like a rural panel at some point, and I can have you and CTV on after you hash through all your differences and become best buddies. So, Samantha, final closing statement on this, and anything you want to plug, like your amazing Twitch Politics Discord. Go ahead.
Well, first, what I want to say is fuck the founding fathers. I'm not going to sit here like a bunch of other people holding and sucking on the fucking dicks of a bunch of dead dudes. Like the founding fathers are marks for that instance. Like, there's no reason we fucking simping for ideologies of people that have been dead for God knows how long. Now, to shout myself out, I'm Samantha Banana 4 on Twitter. I'm lewd and I'm crass, and I try to piss as many people off as possible. And I'm very fucking successful at it. I run the official Twitch Politics Community Discord, which a link will probably end up in chat momentarily. And I'm not a streamer because I'm not a terminally online dipshit. I actually am running under the new slogan, make touching grass great again, which I think you should all do. Unplug for a while, get off the fucking internet, stop yelling at dumbass fucking lefties, dumbass fucking righties on the internet. Go for a walk, go breathe some air, go read a book. And if you want to hear more from me, I'll be on the Mask Off podcast on Sunday, which is a podcast I run with Connor and our good friend Tiberius D. And we don't really have topics, but I will be talking about my experience reading the newer Jordan Peterson book. So check it out Sunday if you want to see that shit.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Again, just in general, thank you all so much for coming on. I really appreciate having each of you. This was a very productive conversation. The first two, I think, were more practical, especially given certain things that have happened with the filibuster, with the Voting Rights Act, and like Biden's commission to potentially like look into expanding the Supreme Court. So those are much more specific policy questions of our day, while the Electoral College obviously is much more theoretical. But I thank all of you for your time, your energy, and your extreme politeness. Connor, Pisco are now best friends. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for supporting this. I'm trying to have a panel like this every single Friday at 8 o'clock, and there are always going to be 6 people. I'm trying to at 3 on each side to have the best conversations on Twitch Politics. And if you like what I do, you're welcome to give us a follow and tell your friends about us so we can keep on growing. So again, thank you all so much for coming in. As you notice, I use my sneaky debate pizza tactic. I'm going to eat all that fucking pizza by myself. And so we are going to raid one of our exceptional friends. So thank you all so much for being here. You're welcome to dip out at any point you want and plug in anything you want to plug. So
appreciate y'all. Catch ya.
Thanks, Hans. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you. Oh, good googly moogly. Redolent, thank you so much for the sub. I don't really need subs, but I really appreciate you probably anyway. Now you get my fun emotes. If you really want to help support the channel, all I need is your eyeballs and your follows. And you're telling your friends. So
California's agriculture output is way bigger than
So, he's just starting out, and so
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to see me.
bye, Samantha. Thank you so much for being here. So, everybody,
Perfect.
good googly moogly.
Oh, no.
My throat. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna cough.
How do I leave? There. Oh, okay. Okay, you can't see me because my camera's hooked up to the website. Yeah, the steak argument, that's more of a cultural straw man. You want to eat steak, you better support these flyover. Like, yeah, the production in these states is crazy. People don't even realize how rural California and New York are. Like, if you go to Western New York or Northern New York, it gets freaking really like there. I think Western New York is one of the largest areas for coal country. People don't even know that. It looks like West Virginia in some areas in New York. I mean, it's a lot more pretty in New York, of course, a lot more waterfalls and stuff. But like, still, outside of New York City, New York is pretty red when you get to a lot of areas, and so is California in a lot of places because there's a lot of these these communities all throughout the country. But when you're electing a president, it doesn't really matter if they're listening to voters in Montana, if they are serving voters similar to those in Montana. So if a president is forced to like, let's say, for example, there's a rural voter in New York and a politician does something nationally to help that rural voter, that policy should, in theory, help a Montana voter as well. Even if a Montana voter wouldn't have that much power, because you're still going to be helping those issues. You don't need to be talking directly to these people to implement national policy, because we're not talking about state legislatures. We're not talking about governors. So yeah, the winner takes all is my least favorite part. Anything other than that would probably be good. The faithless electors are supposed to protect against a demagogue or like a fascist or an authoritarian dictator or whatever, from a populist that can sweep up a bunch of votes based off nothing. I'm pretty sure that's why they have faithless electors. So like a bunch of Washington elites or whatever can say, oh no, Donald Trump, he's bad for democracy. He's going to make our country collapse. He's bad. He's unstable or whatever. In a similar way to how superdelegates sort of like turned it away from like Sanders because he's a populist too. There are some justifications for that. For certain populists, they are dangerous. Even people who I consider good populists are dangerous. Because I like a lot of aspects of Bernie, but I still think you got to be responsible when you're using populist rhetoric if you're going to be going that route as a politician. But anyway, here's my Discord link for anybody not in there. I usually chat in there a little bit. I'll be back on probably Sunday night, maybe tomorrow. Yeah, I know faithless electors don't work. That's just in theory how they're supposed to work. I mean, yeah, half the stuff that's in our government doesn't work as intended. Cockeyed Rooster, thank you. Oh my god. And I don't even know how to say your name, Poobaverse. But if I go live tomorrow, it'll be just playing Call of Duty and reacting to the Destiny debate. Or something like that. I'm not going to be doing my own content. I'm not going to be going on an hour-long rant or anything. I'm going to be pretty tired. All right, here's the Discord. A lot of good discussions in there. All right, good night, y'all.